Hello there, Evan, and hello there, Missy. It's nice to see you here and watch. How you doing? Thanks for coming out to Perseid time. You can see all of our streams on astroimaginglive.com. If we're all up, we're all going to be there. David Schmidt, how you doing? Amy, how are you? Welcome, welcome. So nice to see you guys here. Well, we're just doing a meteor watch tonight. We're going to try and see if we can see some Perseids, and who knows? I know that it's just before the peak, but we might get lucky. I'm just going to take the operations cam and move it over here because we have the full view on the screen now. There's no reason to block it with anything. I have the observatory open, but you know what? There's no reason to use the telescope tonight because all we need is a nice wide-angle camera. This is a view toward the northeast, and we're actually able to see what's going on up there. You know, and we can change things around as we go along here. Hey Tim, what's happening? The peak starts tomorrow. Yeah, well, you know, we've got Bill New York Skywatcher, we've got me, and maybe even Keith from P&K Space Imaging. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing a Perseid watch tonight. They should be. If they're not, if it's clear, they will. Hey there, Mary Grace. Good to see you. Yeah, you know what? It's just because they say the peak starts, say, on a particular date, it doesn't mean that's when you actually have to look. In fact, every single night of the year, you can go out and you can look up, and probably after midnight's the best time, and you can actually see them. You know, there's meteors coming in all the time. Hey there, Marianne. Marianne is in Gilbert, Arizona, where her skies are not very good. But she could drive 25 minutes out to Weaver's Needle, which is it's a little park out there, out in the country. And when you look toward the south and the west, it's actually really, really pretty out there. Very nice skies. So yeah, we're just gonna hang out in here and look for Perseids and see what we get. We can adjust the settings here and make it look a little bit more ominous. Now you might be looking at this right here and you see this little W shape. Okay, that W shape is Cassiopeia. Perseus is down here right now, and the pole is over here, so this will be rotating around the pole like this as the night goes on. and this will be aiming right toward the Perseid radiant in a little while. So we should have some fun. There might be an occasional battery change tonight too. And I'm doing the stream just to take up a little, just to take a little break from working on a presentation I have to give overseas on Wednesday. I bet you did, Mary Grace. You could actually, they are very, very bright. I've actually seen them through rain, actually through a rainstorm. I was in graduate school, and as I was coming out of the building, I noticed it was really raining, so I went to put my books over my head, and I stopped dead in my tracks because this bright greenish yellow object seen through the clouds went streaking from all the way from the left side to all the way to the right side, horizon to horizon. It was amazing, you know, and that was through rain. So sometimes they're very, very bright. And it was literally a massive rock because it was spitting pieces off of itself. At first I thought it was an aircraft in grave danger, but it turns out it was a meteor, what we call an earth grazer, one that actually kind of skims across the earth and heads back out into space. Doesn't quite come into the atmosphere enough to burn up, you know. So it's pretty cool. Hey, Carolina Sky, nice to see you. Yeah, we're just doing meteor some meteor views tonight. And as I pointed out earlier, you can see Cassiopeia right here. The W of Cassiopeia. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars in Cassiopeia there. The W. And down here, a little bit later, we'll see potentially the double cluster in Perseids. It's right about here. It's just very faint to see right now, so it's not easy to see in a wide shot like this, but we'll be able to see it if it gets higher in the sky. I've got a good supply of batteries, so we'll see how it goes tonight. Hey, Philos. Hey, Bobby. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming on out. Yeah, you know, the Perseids are a yearly event. So are the Leonids, by the way, up in November. And the Leonids, and these are, you know, meteors that originate the constellation of the Radiant, I should say, where they seem to be coming from, is in the direction of that constellation of Leo. Man, I gotta tell you, it's really, really amazing if you see a Leonid shower. Because a Leonid shower actually is probably one of the most prolific showers. The Perseids are very bright, and after midnight, it's 9:30 now, but after midnight, we'll actually be able to see, if I'm hanging out that long, I probably should be. We'll be able to see the longer trails that the Perseids leave. We might even see what we call trains, which are the cloudy debris behind the burning up meteor, and they leave like contrails, like a jet leaves contrails. The meteors leave them too, and they're beautiful, and they're so high up that the contrails don't last all that long. But yes, we are streaming. We're going to catch whatever we see. The Leonids, just Philos, the Leonids are really an amazingly prolific shower, and we gotta check that out when it comes around. I also have the lights on blue tonight, but it doesn't have to stay that way. I could change them Blue is cool. I can set it to an Arctic aurora view like this. I could set it to red. I can set it to extremely bright. Whoa. Okay. Or I can set it to a very dim nightlight. And any color in between. I can set it to anything. We'll go to our standard red that kind of matches the 12,800 over here. Hey Omni, gotta give it some time. Of course, you also want to make sure that you set your stream on 1080 so that you can see this in the best resolution that we're offering here. You probably can't see stars unless it is. Like I said, this is Cassiopeia right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see them right there. This is the W of Cassiopeia. And down here is Perseids, which is where we are going to be looking tonight. Oh, you know what? Sorry, you're right, Carolina. She asked me a question, and I did not answer. I am sorry, Mary Grace. We're actually looking toward the northeast right now. Okay. This is northeast. Over here is more north. Okay, over to the left side here. I apologize for that. I was remiss in answering your question, and I had seen it too, and I was about to answer it, and something took me away from it. I apologize. I did not think we were going to get to stream tonight because we had very high cloud cover near the end of the day. It just came in, sucked us in, and it is gone now. And I said, all right, well, let's give that a shot. We do have moisture in the air, though, so the camera lens may end up getting some moisture on it. And the camera's outside the observatory. I did not put it in the observatory because it really doesn't help much, believe it or not. Yeah, we have good company here, don't we? We have good people that are hanging out with us. So hey, and those of you that are joining us right now, if you've not joined SkyTour LiveStream here on YouTube with us, why not join it? As you know, it's a free subscription, and we actually do normally deep sky astronomy and show you the deep sky from our telescope. These trees are, in the same location as our observatory, and so I have the camera just outside the dome. And we have a 10-inch research-grade instrument plus a 5-inch refractor that's in there, and a spectral system for doing spectral analysis. The colors of the stars and figuring out what's going on with the stars based on their color. Once in a while tonight, I may get up and leave for a little bit and come back. I have other things to do in preparation for the several 1,000-mile trip I got to go on Wednesday across the Atlantic. Is there anybody watching from Norway? That's where I'm going. Norway's a fun country. I'm actually looking to put together an expedition to Norway as soon as this winter, or maybe even if I have to next winter or next spring, actually, because it's still cold there. I do not like the cold, but the one benefit we have with Norway is it has some northern land. And if you get to the farthest northern part of Norway, you can see the northern lights unlike anywhere else on the planet. And you don't have to be too far, say, from Trondheim, which is northern Norway, to actually see them. So we can have all the amenities we need, but then have a nice expedition to go look at the northern lights each evening. And that's the nice thing about Norway, is each evening is a long, long time. Yeah, hit that thumbs up, will you guys? Yeah, that's a fine thing to do. Oh, we see a aircraft right here coming in. Thanks, Carolina, for bringing that to my attention. These aircraft, many times these are the overseas flights, because they'll head from this direction that way. This one's coming toward us, so it's probably coming in from overseas, which is kind of interesting. I actually took a photo of the overseas flights, and when they pass by, especially when it's like a waxing gibbous moon, the waxing gibbous moon is larger in the sky than the lesser phases, and has more area over which a plane could cross. And many times I'll actually photograph a plane crossing in front of the moon. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's me. I'm doing something here. Well, thank you, David. I'm planning on going on the Aurora expedition if we can get it to happen. I talked to Ben Hansen today. Ben Hansen is the former host of Sci-Fi's Fact or Faked. He now has another show on Discovery Channel, and Ben is interested in working on, on getting this trip to Norway worked out too as well. So Ben would go too, of course. And between Ben and I mean, you can't get better presenters than that. In terms of, Ben's the Mr. Night Vision. He's got night vision goggles that are just par excellence, I basically have this, this setup that I have. This camera is like basically full color night vision. I mean, if you want to see what it can do, I'm going to increase this now, and you can see, okay, now it's starting to look like daytime, see? And I'm only at 64,000. I'm not even halfway there. I can go a lot brighter. But you can see that, the camera has the capability of going to an amazingly high sensitivity ISO, So it's pretty neat. That's right, Mary Grace. He's doing the Ghosts of Morgan City. Thank you. Yeah. Ben and I have been friends for many years. He's a really good guy. That's right. For David Schmidt over in Bangkok, it's 9:30 in the morning, isn't it? So he's just getting ready to start classes. Unless he's not in school yet. I think you told me you already went back to school, David, but maybe not. I have not seen the Ghost of Cassiopeia by that name. If that's anything, it's probably a planetary nebula. That's what I would assume. It's a pet name for a planetary nebula, I bet. Am I right? Let's hear it, Carolina. That's cool, David. Oh, very cool. David Schmidt does not have to teach today because it's Mother's Day. That's amazing. You get Mother's Day off. Wow. This star right here? Carolina, you're saying it's the middle star of the W in Cassiopeia, so that star, Ghost of Cassiopeia? I didn't never heard of it. I never heard it called that name before. Okay, so it's the Mission Nebula there. I probably, yes, as a matter of fact, I've tried to find that actually. But I think of it as the Mission Nebula. I didn't think of it as, you know, Ghost of Cassiopeia. That's a name for it. That's pretty cool. When the observatory gets to Arizona, I really suspect we'll see things a lot better. The sky's a lot clearer. Much, much nicer. Hey, Rock, what's going on? Thanks for coming along. Andy, thank you for putting the address over in Bill's.
When you guys were getting like played by the people trying to sell you CDs,
Right, yeah.
right before that, when we walked up and we saw those people on that stairs or whatever the heck it was,
Yeah.
right there is where you could be seen on Earthman. Right there.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, so Bill's off and running. He's got Ronald on. Cool. Very cool. Hey, Put, how's it going? Hey, Shep. Good to see you checking things out. David, that would be a great idea. I'd really like to do a stream for your guys. Your kids would be great to talk to. I know we had a short little thing we did with them before, but I think we should be able to do a real better established stream for them. Hey Creamers, welcome to the stream. The peak is supposed to start tomorrow or so, and but you know what? We could watch before and after for quite a while, actually, a day or two either side. So it might be pretty good. Might be pretty good. Daisy and Zoe, Amethyst, nice to see you guys again. Thanks for dropping by. Mary Grace, this camera is sitting right outside our observatory dome in Connecticut, in the northwest corner of Connecticut, and we're looking to the north. You can see, for those that just joined us, you can see Cassiopeia, the W of Cassiopeia here. That's the W of Cassiopeia. Hey, Daryl, how you doing? I noticed you're over in Bill's chat, or sorry, Bill's stream too. That's awesome. You got a lot going on over there. Cassiopeia is right here, Creamers. Okay, we have 1 star, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the W shape, see? That's the W shape of Cassiopeia. Oh, Daryl, of course, you're always welcome here. Did you want to come on? You can come on if you like. We have a little cloud over here, a remnant over here as well. A little remnant from earlier. All right, cool. I'll bring you up. Hang on. Just a minute. I'll be right there with you. Well, let me know when you're ready, Daryl. Okay, folks, I'm calling so you'll hear Skype.
Hello.
And there he is.
Hi, everybody.
Howdy, Daryl.
Howdy. I'm right popular tonight. They wanted me at Bill's, and then Bill thought I should come over here and hang with you.
Well, why did he kick you out? You stay where you're wanted, right? You're wanted here too, you know.
Yeah, oh sure. Well, here I am.
Awesome.
Do your worst.
Nah, there's no
Yeah,
worst.
they're talking about playing Family Feud later, and
Okay, well, that's, you know. Hey, Steve Evans. Nice to see you. Jersey, how you doing? it's nice to see people showing up to look at the Perseids. But this is it, you know. This is welcome to the world of staring at the sky. Because normally we do the very active observatory work where we take the telescope and move it around to these different cool things. But on meteor shower nights, this is what happens. We just set up the camera, you know, outside the dome, aim it off toward the direction that the meteors are coming from, and we look for the meteors. You know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Still early, but
Yeah, it's very early.
I think I spy Perseus peeking his head above the tree there.
Yeah, that's right.
Down below Cassiopeia.
Right down here. The double cluster is down right around here, so. But unfortunately, with the wide angle view here, we're not going to be able to see it, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe as a fuzzy spot we will. You know, but that's about it.
Sure.
Hey, Gotcha, welcome. Gotcha Bear is in the house. And Most Intelligent, what's going on, brother? Nice to see you. And we have a lot of really good people. Hey, Mr. Schnitger. Yes, I know that Eugene Schnitger, I believe, is the guy who's from Belfort, South Dakota. And I met him when I was doing the Devil's Tower UFO Rendezvous. And really cool guy. He's got a whole bunch of friends. They have these really neat, you know, they have a really good liking for the whole Star Trek franchise. And a lot of fun to talk to these guys.
My kind of people.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out, Eugene. I'm glad you came. As you can see, we're just staring at the sky looking for an eventual set of meteors that we might see, the Perseids. I may go out and move it a little bit that way a little while, but right now we're okay. Yep.
Get situated here. Bear with me.
No problem.
I'm going to be mute.
That's okay. I think Amanda is in Bill's stream.
Yeah, she is. Amanda and I were holding down the fort along with Ronald. Bill had to run out for a little while. Mom wanted some green peppers, so she made him go to the grocery store, and Ronald, Amanda, and I were running the place while Bill was gone.
That's cool.
But he's back now, and we saw that you were streaming too, and Bill said, well, gee, Daryl, go over and help Mark, and then come back later, and we might play Family Feud, so
Cool.
We'll see.
Yeah, Bill has a lot of fun games they play over there. They have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I like to play Family Feud sometimes. Sometimes it gets a little too hectic for me in there, and I have to go.
Yeah.
They did the other night, and I told them I had to leave. It was getting so raucous in there that all the voices were distorting, and I couldn't understand what anybody was saying.
Yeah.
But as long as they have fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I'm making a little noise here.
That's fine.
I'll be set in just a second.
Yes, gotcha. It's the Perseids tonight, the Perseid meteor shower. The peak is starting tomorrow, I believe, for a couple days. But you know what? You can see them either side of the peak, what they claim is the peak. Most of them won't start for another, I don't know, half hour or so. You'll start to see more. Because by that point, the Earth is rotated around to the point where the meteors will actually be coming toward the Earth, right toward our side of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, we're on the other side of the globe from where the meteors are hitting. And you see a few that streak occasionally by But after midnight, there's usually more. And so this may be a relatively long stream. I'm not sure. We'll see how long we can go.
Yeah, how are you holding up tonight, Mark?
Well, I am doing okay at the moment. I may disappear for a few minutes at a time here just to go either mess with the camera, change the battery, or go upstairs and get a drink or take care of something. But I might, otherwise I will be here.
Okay.
Checking things out.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, if you need to run, let me know, and I'll try to hold the fort down until you come back.
No problem, Daryl. Thank you. I figured that's why I've got music in the background. Just turn it up and say, hey, guys, I'll be right back. But that's fair. That's cool.
Well, Ronald engaged me in talking about telescope optics while Bill was gone over there, and it actually got a little on the deep side. So I think I probably already bored everybody to death over there. So here I am now to entertain you and your bunch.
Oh, it's not a problem. I mean, here's the thing. I tell people all the time, okay, I've done astronomy for a long time. I knew I was going to be an astronomer ever since age 9, and I went and I got a degree in astronomy. And then, when it came to the practical side of telescopes and optics and stuff, I kind of just deferred to the people that knew that. But, I still can do it. Obviously can because, my observatory is relatively remote now. But
Sure.
Then, you came along and you're a master optical guy. And, well, you know it. You know it is. That's, it's true. In fact, you're very paranoid about keeping your optics clean. And, so you've even taught me a few things, about making sure that my optics are proper, and I'm okay with that. I think that's great. I'm not. Well, I don't have all the answers. So. Yeah, I don't have all the answers.
Nobody has all the answers. I just, heck, I think when I first started going to you, I pointed out one night you looked like your scope was out of collimation a little bit, and next thing I knew, you gave me a wrench. I didn't even ask for it.
No. Well, you certainly deserved it.
Well, I've been doing this a long time too, and I am maybe a little more on the mechanics side of things, so that's what I did for a living, and I like talking about stuff like that. Yeah. So, and when I see it, I'll maybe try politely to say something about it.
Well, your comments are always welcome because you don't try to belittle. You're not trying to make anyone feel bad. You're just trying to point out a truth, and I think that's great. I have no problem with that.
Okay. Ronald was asking me pretty intelligent questions tonight too, so more power to him.
That's good. That's good. So I'd like to see him get his telescope up and running. To those that don't know, Ronald is. He's ERRT radio. We see him a lot in our chats, and he has driven from Minnesota all the way out to Pine Bush, New York, a couple of years in a row now. And it's a 20-hour drive, and I'm telling you, it's just amazing that somebody would have that kind of commitment to come out. And he brought his telescope out last time in hopes that we would get to it. To help him figure it out, and we just didn't, unfortunately. So I felt bad about that, but it is what it is,
Yeah.
Hey DK, how you doing? Yeah, the Perseids. The reason they call them the Perseids is because, and every meteor shower, it's the same thing. Depending on where the Earth intersects the stream of debris that enters the atmosphere and becomes meteors on a streak across the sky. Depending on that location, it'll be against some type of constellation in the sky. And, the universe is nothing if not regular. And so, year after year, the same debris stream will turn up in the same part of our orbit. Earth will go through it again. And so, it's okay to say, hey, this stream of debris entering the Earth's atmosphere is entering kind of from the perspective when we're looking into the sky from the location, the region around where Perseus appears to be. They're certainly not coming from Perseus, of course. They're coming from just 100 miles up or so. And of course, the stars of Perseus are many light years away, hundreds, thousands of light years away, hundreds and thousands of light years away. So when we see that, we actually see, it's sort of the location where they seem to be coming from, the thing we call the radiant, appears to be superimposed in front of a known constellation. So we have the Perseids, we have the Leonids, which appear to be coming from Leo. We have the Lyrids, which appear to be coming from Lyra. We have the Taurids, we have the Aquarids, and those are all named after constellations because that's where they appear to be originating from. But that's just where you start to see them. That's where, if you took a photograph of the sky and left the camera open all night long, you would see a bunch of streaks of light from the meteors that look like radial spokes all coming from one general singular direction, and that singular direction will be, say, in Perseus for the Perseids, or in Leo for the Leonids. So that's kind of how that works. It has nothing to do with actually if they're coming from there, because they're certainly not. They're just superimposed on that. Hope that answers your question, DK.
May I add a little bit?
I would insist.
Okay. The Perseids in particular come from debris left by the comet Swift-Tuttle. Swift-Tuttle last passed back in the 90s, if I remember correctly, and most shower meteors do come from periodic comets, where every time the comet passes through the neighborhood, it sort of reseeds the area as it moves in its orbit. And what we are seeing with the Perseids in particular is debris from Comet Swift-Tuttle. If I remember right, the Leonids, I think, come from Comet Tempel-Tuttle. Tuttle really got around, I guess. And
That's true.
There are two annual showers that both come from Halley's Comet, which last passed here in 85 and 86.
Yeah.
I want to say Delta Aquarids or something like that, and I forget the other one, but they both come from Halley's Comet.
Yeah. And what's happening there, it says, when a comet is passing around the sun, a comet is made of all kinds of debris, including ice and dust particles especially. And the dust particles are lifted off the comet when the sun strikes the comet's surface, heats it up, and because it's made of very, very volatile compounds, as in easy to melt and evaporate away and go off into space, when they do that, they typically will also push off. They'll actually push off debris, and so it leaves sort of a dust trail behind it, kind of like Pigpen in the Peanuts cartoon. Everywhere he goes, he leaves a dust trail. Well, that's kind of what the comets do as well. Hey, Marianne Lynn, how are you? Nice to see you here for the first time. Oh, look at that. So you're actually, you're in Yuma? Are you in Yuma? I've been in Arizona every month of the year, and I'll be moving there in another year or two. And a year and a half. And I've been all over the state. I know exactly where Yuma is. And I'm just wondering, well, let me know. Yeah, no, I actually did ignore the Seinfeld thing. I figured it was just an autocorrect error.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It is funny, though.
It is, yeah. The Seinfeld Perseids.
Seinfeld Perseids are best Perseids.
Boy, does he want everything? Now he has to own the Seinfeld has to own the Perseids, too? Yeah. So anyway, I was just saying to Marianne, I just want to say welcome, Marianne. Thank you so much for coming on out. It's so nice to see you join us. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. SkyTour LiveStream on YouTube is a place for not just meteor showers. We do deep sky astronomy with our observatory telescope. Tonight's a special night because of the meteor shower, but please do join on YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty hot down there. Now, what's humid for you, Marianne? That's what I'd like to know. Because when I was down there, people were saying wow, it's 22% humidity. I'm dying here. And for me, 22% humidity is bone dry because I'm in Connecticut. I absolutely love the dry heat in Arizona. But I don't know if you're talking about humidity of, well, you're actually kind of in your what they call your monsoon season anyway. So you're going to have a little bit more moisture in the air. But I'll tell you this, and you don't understand this, Marianne, because if you've lived there for a long time, the winter constellations up here are constellations like Taurus and Orion, Canis Major, and the winter constellations are amazing to photograph in shorts and a t-shirt. And you can't do that from Connecticut, But down in Arizona, I photographed Orion in shorts and a t-shirt. I was like, wow, this is the life for me. And besides, of course, I was out in the Sonoran Desert, which is where the observatories got a home waiting for it, basically. And we're going to be pulling the observatory out of here and putting it out there in the Sonoran Desert, where we'll get dark skies and absolutely stunning views. And that's going to actually happen pretty quick. I don't want to be down for very long. So the building is going to get made out there. It's going to be what's called a roll-off roof observatory, basically like a shed. And the whole roof slides off, exposing the telescope pier, which has the telescope on it. And I'm going to try and make it so I can have 2 more piers in there, so I can have 2 other telescopes in there, or allow universities to lease a pier and put their own instrumentation in there. And then I'll just help them maintain it, as part of our agreement. I think that would be a really cool thing and give, access to people who need it. What an amazing location, it's beautiful down there. You can do real research finally. And, now and then the fighters from Luke Air Force Base come out and give you a light show as they start doing flare exercises off in the distance. And you kind of end up with your own Phoenix lights, so to speak. It's just that they're flares this time and not triangular UFOs. Oh, humidity is 60%? Well, where are you, Missy? She says humidity is 60%. It's 86 with a heat index of 90 at 9:05 p.m. Okay, so you're not in Arizona then. You're in the Midwest somewhere. Wow. Yeah, see, 60% humidity with 86. Are you in Alabama or Mississippi? Do let us know. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting, So the desert should be a beautiful, afford some beautiful. Yeah, I thought Alabama, very good. Yeah, because you said 86 with a heat index of 90, 60% humidity, and I'm thinking of all the states going across and the likely candidates, and Alabama was one of them. So that's why I said that. All right, cool. I haven't been to Alabama.
I went there when I was young.
Uh-huh.
I was down on the Gulf Coast. We were just above the coast on the Florida, the Florida Panhandle got in the way. But boy, there was a lot of good bay shrimp and oysters and stuff to eat down there.
Yeah.
It was hotter than heck, though.
Yeah. Well, Bobby's in Louisiana. Missy's in Alabama. Marianne, I think you said you're in Yuma, right? And do you see the guys from Luke Air Force Base? They come out there over that range, I think, the mountain ranges and so forth, to do a lot of their runs. F-35s, yeah. Yeah, I've actually I've been on I was on a carrier where F-35s were. Not as a Navy guy, but I do work for the Navy and I do some high-end model work, believe it or not. I actually have more than one talent. Ooh-wee. And that's pretty cool. Yeah. Wow. All right, so yeah, Yuma's one of those towns that I have yet to visit. But you are pretty far, you know. If you can drive to Tucson or Phoenix, you know, you still got a couple hours, don't you? Several hours actually to either of those places. Probably easier to get to San Diego or Los Angeles for you. I'm guessing. Oh, okay. Okay, the USMC Air Station. All right. Very cool. You know, I was teaching a class in UFO retrievals, actually, out in the Sonoran Desert, and we actually, the person that was putting it on, it was a former scientist from Lawrence Livermore, and you know, wants to do things right. So he created a UFO that was 12 to 13 feet in diameter, bright silver, and he buried it in the ground like it had crashed. And it really was very convincing, very cool. And that was the prep work for setting up this week-long trip out there. And we had 30 people coming in from all over the United States for the training. And we get out there, and I couldn't believe the story that happened out there. And it was that the UFO he buried in the sand was actually seen by fighter jets from Luke Air Force Base. And they immediately called it in as a crashed disc. And all kinds of authorities came out. Helicopters showed up. It was the funniest thing in the world, because they were thinking that something crashed in the desert. And the guys from Luke said it looks like a UFO. So out they went. The sheriffs were coming in and helicopter, and oh my gosh, it was hilarious. I just think that's funny.
Who knew they gave classes in UFO retrieval?
Well, that's also true. Yeah. Yep. Very cool.
You talk low humidity. When weather conditions are right here along the Front Range of Colorado, we'll get humidity down in single digits sometimes. I mean, I've seen it down like 5-6%.
Yeah.
It's literally just bone dry.
Yeah, I was in Phoenix one time, and I actually I took a shower. I got out of the shower and I actually tried something, because the humidity was at 6% that day. So I used a hand towel to dry off, and the hand towel was dry by the time I was done. I could just keep using it over and over because the water just evaporated so fast. Yeah.
I remember reading about when the Lewis and Clark expedition was happening. They would test humidity by one of them, Lewis or Clark, I guess. He would set out a tablespoon of water and time how long it took it to evaporate. That was how they did it in the good old days.
Yeah. Yep. It's a little early for us. I know that. I put one of my batteries in that's low on charge, so that I could just get it finished off, so that I could then come in here and get the new battery, bring it out, put it in. Oh, we have Marianne Lynn and we have Marianne Robb. Marianne Robb is in Gilbert, Arizona. Marianne Lynn is in Yuma. And Marianne Robb is also a police officer. And when I was out there, at one point, I went for was it 10 hours, Marianne? I think I had the ride with you. And you wouldn't let me get out of the car. She'll never live that down, because she said I could get out of the car, but I didn't have a traffic vest, so I chose not to get out of the car. Anyway, Marianne was very kind to make sure I got all around Arizona this last time I was there, because I had to talk in Sedona and then talk over in Show Low. And Show Low is wonderful. You're up like above 7,000 feet. and it is just so neat. When you're up that high, you look up at the blue sky, and it's just much more blue, and because you're above a lot of the haze. So that's where you get what's called good seeing and good transparency in astronomy. And we deal with seeing and transparency a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Marianne's calling me a liar. Yeah, no, I said, I chose not to get out of the car. I didn't say why. I mean, there's an accident, and there's this car all smashed up. And she says, all right, you can get out if you want, just stay on the median. Well, the median was about like 3 inches wide. So it's like, I'm not gonna, how can I fit in the median, So I chose not to get in there. Chose not to get out. Yeah, Marianne, Lynn, you do have a twin. All right, you want to be called Mary or Mari? Mari is kind of called Mari. This is Mari from Yuma. Mari from Yuma, you're on the air. Go. Go for Papa Palpatine. Remember that? Marianne is saying hi to you.
Oh, yes. Hi, Marianne.
Yep. Yeah. It's fun to just sit here and look at the sky. I mean, it's a nice enough night. I don't have to be inside. I could actually be outside, And I'm not against being in the dome during streams, especially in the warmer weather. But I actually have more technical tools available to me here than out there. See, the telescope is slaved to the computer system out there, and I try not to upset the computer system out there. I like to let it just run, do its thing, so I try not to do too much on that. That computer has to last a while. But I've got a package of material that I can just put on any computer, and it can do everything that things do, and it's just kind of one little package of programs that have to go on. Well, not one little package. It's a big package of programs, but actually, I know which ones they are. Yep. So, I don't think we've seen anything yet.
We had some computers at work. They were running the YAG lasers we had.
Yeah.
Those things were still running Windows 95.
Wow.
Believe it or not. They work. They were slow as heck, but
yeah.
They had the software on them. They'd been there forever, so that's what they still used.
Yep.
Old-fashioned desktops. They were that light beige color back then, and they did the job.
Yep. Yes, sirree. We actually, there was an incident with the YAG lasers. Was it yttrium arsenide gallium or something? Is it?
The whole thing is ND-YAG, which stands for neodymium doped yttrium aluminum garnet lasers, I believe.
Okay. Because there was an issue when I was getting my astronomy degree. Of course, astronomy is a lot of physics, so there was a lab that had a YAG laser they were using, and the laser was giving them trouble, so they took the laser up to one of their offices, and they tried to fix it on their little desk, and so forth. And it was plugged in, and it didn't work, so they went to lunch. And they came back to fire engines and all kinds of things going on. People, trying to figure out what's going on. Apparently, the YAG laser started firing after they left.
Wow. And they left it turned on, of course.
Of course they did. And it had just quite dutifully chewed through concrete blocks in the walls.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's why they put YAG lasers in enclosures.
Yeah. Well, this was at a time when they didn't really have any YAG lasers. I mean, sorry, any enclosures for the YAG lasers.
Yeah.
Another one we saw was a pulse laser that was so powerful that, I held a popsicle stick in front of it and it vaporized half of the stick because the beam was around 2.5 to 3 inches in diameter, the whole beam.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of power for that size of a beam.
That is.
Yeah, and it went, and then the stick was gone. Yeah, I'm holding a little stub. I was like, whoa. Do not get your hands in there. Poke a hole right in you.
Oh, I could tell laser stories. I'd probably bore the crowd, though. They're fun to... they're fun, I guess. It's kind of different when you have to work on them, to keep them in service. It gets to be a pain in the butt sometimes.
Yeah.
If you think collimating a telescope is bad, try collimating a laser with like 7 optical elements in it. Probably why I don't have a lot of hair left on top of my head. But they're neat, and you can play with them sometimes. And they can be contrary sometimes too, when it's not much fun working on them.
Yeah, you know what I did when I was actually teaching at a science center for a few years, and it gets boring up on the mountain because it was a mountaintop science center. So I decided to undertake a little project. I took a laser and I built a little receiver, electronic receiver for the light energy, and I hooked that up to a speaker, and I took a little shiny mirror element and I stuck it on the window of the director's office, and I beamed the laser at that little tiny mirror, caught the reflection in my receiver, and was listening to the conversation inside the room. So it was like a laser bug, and I called him on the phone, and he's talking he was on the phone, and I called him after he got off the phone because I could hear when he got off the phone. And I said, "Hey Don, you just got off the phone there, and so how's Bob doing? I heard you talking to Bob." And he goes, "What were you here?" "No, I'm up on the ridge." And he looks out the window, and I'm waving at him from way up on top of the ridge. He goes, "Well, how are you doing that?" And I said, "I bugged your office. I made a laser bug." And he says, "What?" So I told him what I did. He was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool. Don't ever do it again."
That's CIA and KGB kind of stuff right there. I've heard of them doing that.
Yeah, they they also use microwaves as well, depending on the application. But lasers were very good for that. They did just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually they'll use lasers that don't have a visible beam. I used a visible beam laser, but you couldn't see it.
Uh-huh.
I also did a episode of one story for NASA's Unexplained Files where I actually recreated that, and I built another laser bug. In fact, I still have that circuit right here. Today, in fact, I put it on a shelf. That's what I call my science shelf, and it has diffraction gratings and another laser and a few other things. And I had actually made a laser bugging system again. To illustrate how lasers can be encoded with data. Because, with fast radio bursts, people say, hey, it's only a matter of time. Will they send laser beams with encoded messages from an alien civilization? And the answer is, well, I can't say no to that, but it's probably not likely. But, it's possible. And if they did, how would they encode data? Well, I can show you. So I used a window pane for one of the doors here going into another part of my workshop, and had them stand on the other side of the door and say, a regular room tone, "Hello, my name is so-and-so." And out of the speaker all the way on the other side of the shop, over by the laser, you can hear him talking coming out of the speaker. Hello, my name is so and so. So it demonstrated how light could be encoded with sound waves. Yet it's and that was actually kind of cool. And it's just changing the frequency of the light ever so slightly because of actually Doppler effect. The vibration is being literally translated into that light beam, and then it gets converted back to sound at the other end.
Yeah. Didn't scientists beam a laser message? I think it was at M13 globular cluster. Several decades ago.
Yes.
And it looked like it was like a very simple 2-bit image. Looked like stick figures, but I think there was a man and a woman in there, or a man at least, and other things that they thought, some alien race, if they ever received the message, they could decode it somehow.
Sure. I remember that too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The M13 is so far away. Well, they're not going to get that message for thousands of years, but someday maybe.
Dala, you're asking a question here. How did you hear? Oh wait, you said you can do that with lasers. How did you hear that? Okay, if you're talking about the laser system, when you aim the laser at the window vibrates when you talk. The sound waves induce a vibration in the glass. That vibration, however small, is literally encoded into the laser beam. So now you have a laser beam that has this sound that has been encoded into it because of the frequency shift that it causes to happen to the laser beam. A little bit of shift. And then you have a sensitive receiver that can hear or receive the laser light, and it converts that sensitive little shifting back and forth into sound. And what comes out is the sound that's in the other end of that room. So I don't think if that's what you're talking about, I don't think that's beyond your comprehension. I think that it's something that makes a lot of sense. It's something relatively easy to do, actually. So I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I think.
Now again, that's CIA, KGB sort of stuff. I've heard stories. Supposedly, the Russians were bouncing a laser off a window at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow.
Yeah.
And they were picking up the reflected laser light, and it was, getting the modulated signal from the vibrations of the window glass.
Yeah.
So they could hear what people were saying indoors.
Yeah, and so what they did to combat that was they started to take little music, speakers playing music and face them into the window, so that any sound in the room would be drowned out by the music.
Huh.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, you're welcome, Dalai. No problem. I think that's Polaris right there, isn't it, Daryl?
I think you're right, yes.
Yeah, I tried to get Polaris right in that corner so that everything would rotate around it, so that gives people kind of a reference. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know I'd have to look at a star chart to make sure, but I do believe you're right. I know Bill had a rather similar view the other night, and I was looking at the chart then.
Yeah.
Getting it to transpose over into what I was seeing on his monitor.
Yeah.
On screen.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, you can actually see that, and there's Cassiopeia.
Yeah, right there.
And Andromeda over to the lower right of Cassiopeia, and Perseus is rising beneath Cassiopeia now.
Yep, right there. And this plane is rising too.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Very neat. Yeah.
I think the monsoon actually broke late
good.
today. I peeked out earlier and I could actually see blue sky.
Nice.
It's just now getting dark here. I may break away a time or two to go out and take a look, but it's still early yet here.
Sure.
I mean, it's not even truly dark yet here.
Yeah. I'm gonna go change the battery. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll be right back, folks. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'll be right back. Daryl, you got the fort.
Okay. I'll try to hold it down.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Daryl. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I do shows with Mark sometimes. I appear on his radio program with Mark and Amanda, SkyTour Radio on KGRA. Come listen to us on Sunday nights at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We have a good time and lots of fun, talk about cool stuff. I'm an amateur astronomer with about 40 years experience. I've designed and built a number of telescopes, and my thing is like visual observation, whatever. Mark does imaging and high-powered stuff like that. I just like looking at things for the sake of their prettiness and their awe and wonder, all that sort of stuff, you know, beauty of the night sky. And hopefully, you know, we complement each other well, seem to make a pretty good team. And I help Mark out here sometimes too on SkyTour LiveStream, and that's why I'm here tonight. Everybody's up for the Perseids tonight. It has been cloudy with the summer monsoon here, basically all summer long, and getting to look has actually been a rare experience for me this summer, just because it's been so cloudy. And it looks like tonight may cooperate. Tomorrow is actually the peak of the shower, but rates have been increasing, and I hope to see something later tonight. Thank you, Doll. Anybody have any general questions I could answer for you? I'd be happy to try. Like Mark said, I'm just holding down the fort till he gets back. They hate dead air, so I'm not that talkative a sort. I can keep yammering if you want me to. Fire away if you have a question. Doodah. Maybe not. Well, I may just start yammering some more then. There's a really neat thing happening right in front of us on the monitor. Be even cooler if we could see it in real life. I hope to later. When you see Cassiopeia there above center, looks like a crooked W. Have you ever seen the movie Clash of the Titans? It was the goofy Greek mythology movie made back like early 80s, I think. Harry Hamlin played Perseus. Well, that whole story is playing out in the sky in front of us. That crooked W, that is Cassiopeia, the queen. She's sitting on her throne. And Perseus is rising under her. You may see a little dim triangle just above those trees there to the left of center toward the bottom. That is Perseus's head. He's wearing a magic helmet that made him invisible, if I remember correctly. Perseus is the hero, and Andromeda is that curved line of stars over on the right side. Andromeda is Cassiopeia's daughter, and the whole story is unfolding that Cassiopeia bragged about Andromeda's beauty, and she managed to offend one or more of the gods. And the gods, as punishment, said, you have to take your daughter Andromeda and go out and chain her to a rock in the ocean, and we're going to send Cetus, the sea monster, to come eat her, to, you know, punish you for your pride. And well, here comes Perseus. He's going to rescue Andromeda, who is his sweetheart, or will be. And he had already cut off the head of the Medusa, the Gorgon, you might remember, the gal with the snakes in her hair. And she's so ugly it would turn you to stone if you looked at her. Well, Perseus also had a a shield that was so highly polished. These are all gifts from the gods to him. That he looked at the Medusa in the reflection of his shield so he could cut her head off. And when Perseus arrived on Pegasus, the winged horse, which is also in that area, well, Perseus took the Medusa's head out of a sack and showed it to Cetus, the sea monster, and turned the sea monster to stone. And he rescued Andromeda, and they all lived happily ever after. That's basically the story going on there. They didn't have TV thousands of years ago, so they told their stories in the sky. And that's where we get the constellations and the mythology now. Hello, D. Smith. I'm just sitting here blabbering while Mark is out changing batteries, so bear with me. Mark will be back in a minute. The bright star you see at the upper right, that is one of the corners of Pegasus, the flying horse. Sure, doll eye, no problem. That's like the horse's back hip, if I remember right. The brighter star you see toward the top left. Sure, D. Smith. And if you see them up in the sky, it looks sort of like Andromeda's falling off the horse's butt, or she's hanging onto his tail or something of the sort. But that's the way they're situated. Pegasus is a neat constellation all by itself. It makes a great big square up in the sky, standing on one corner. They call it the Great Square of Pegasus. But if you look closely, you can see its head, you can see its front and back legs, and what looks like Andromeda holding his tail. And Cassiopeia's husband, Cepheus the king, he is just out of view toward the top of right above Cassiopeia. So you got the king, you got the queen, you got the princess daughter, and you got the hero coming to the rescue. And out of view to the lower right is the sea monster, Cetus, what we now call Cetus the whale. Considered a sea monster back in the day, and that's pretty much the whole story of the myth. If you've never seen the movie, it is a fun movie. It's silly by today's standards. It was also the last movie that Ray Harryhausen, old school effects master, did, I do believe, and you can kind of tell it with the stop motion animation of the figures. Very, very representative of his kind of work. Mary Grace Kirby, yes. As a general thing, you want to look, northeast. Again, Perseus is following Cassiopeia up into the sky. Should be well up if you're in the Eastern time zone. It's not up yet here in the West. Generally face in a northeasterly direction, and later in the evening, if you're up late, Perseus may be more toward due north, above the pole star. Yeah, face generally northeast, and you don't have to look right at Perseus. You may want to park the radiant point over toward one corner of your vision and look like 30 to 40 degrees away from it about any direction. You may see the most meteors that way. Sure thing, Mark. DK 0018, what do I think of Oumuamua and the Black Knight satellite? I don't know what the Black Knight satellite is. Oumuamua, we've talked about a bunch of times on Mark's show. It is rather long and narrow. I always thought of it as comparable in size and maybe shape to an aircraft carrier. and it's about that big or a little bit bigger than an aircraft carrier. Because it's so long and narrow, I think it has to be pretty cohesive material, probably maybe like a nickel iron meteorite or asteroid, something that has enough strength to hold itself together. That's really about all I know or feel about Oumuamua. Is it a spaceship? I seriously doubt it. It's probably just a interstellar interloper, an asteroid, something of the sort that passed through the system. It was moving really quick, and there was some conjecture that it was speeding up as it was leaving the solar system, which you wouldn't expect a natural object to do. Therefore, some people think, oh my God, it's got engines, it's a spaceship. I don't know. It's just something neat that passed through the system. It came and went pretty quick. That's really all I know about Oumuamua. Something of the sort that passed through the system. It was moving really quick. There was some conjecture that it was speeding up as it was leaving the solar system, which you wouldn't expect a natural object to do. Therefore, some people think, oh my God, it's got engines, it's a spaceship. Mark, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hello, Daryl. Thank you so much for covering while I changed the battery and took care of a couple items.
Oh, sure. I hope I didn't bore your audience to death.
Oh, nonsense. You don't bore anybody.
I was just sitting here blabbering while you were gone. Hopefully it made sense to someone.
Yeah, it sure did, I'm sure. Actually, I'm going to try something here, because it looks to me like we might have an issue with the program. I'm going to shut it down and restart it.
Oh no. Will you excuse me for a moment, please?
Yeah, please do. I'll be right back to you guys. So, a little behind the scenes here. Oh, you figures it did that. Okay, so that... okay. Well, guess what, guys? I'm going to be going out one more time to the dome. And I will make sure that I take care of getting this back up and running. So, I'll have the music up. And if one of you could tell Daryl when he gets back, I will be back in a bit. I just have to go fix the computer. Ay, ay, ay.
Are we on the air? If we're on the air, can you hear me talking? Well, if you can hear me, I'm going to talk, just to fill the dead air. Is there anything else you'd like to know? Ask away. I will try to answer your questions. Don't make me angry, D. Smith. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. That was the Hulk talking, of course. He's back. He's close anyway.
And that's what you gotta do.
So, what'd you have to do?
The problem was the screen for some reason actually went haywire, and it didn't send the signal through, and it kept shortcutting. It actually got rid of this live view and it wasn't showing it, so I had to I had to restart the camera, and I did it in such a way that you didn't notice it. It was sort of like a warm restart.
Oh. Well, cool beans. You got your image back.
Yeah. I also want to add something to the Oumuamua comments earlier, because
Sure.
I heard you talking about them, and I thought that was pretty cool. Oumuamua, I calculated the impact energies should Oumuamua have hit us, and I based it on a composition that may have been I don't know, real, not real, but basically calculating it from a stone, a compressed stone type composition to an iron composition. And we were still talking about something that hit with the force of, in some cases, just over a megaton. So it's actually quite powerful, if it hit, especially at the velocities that it came through here with. It was really quite high.
Yeah.
And it was 10 times longer than it was wide, so yeah, it was like a spindle. And the estimates were anywhere from 700 feet wide, or 700 feet long to 70 feet, and 70 feet wide to 2,500 feet long, and 250 feet wide. They never got the answer, so I actually did the calculation for all of that. DK, where was it? DK saw a meteor. Here I am babbling away, and I missed the darn meteor. Tell me where you saw it, DK.
Mark, that reminds me of, I'm full of old pop culture references and science fiction and stuff. I bet you read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert Heinlein.
Yes.
Where they were dropping big slugs of lunar material on the Earth. And, that was, they acted just like atomic bombs, but there was no radiation. It was purely thermal. But that always reminded me of that. That always stuck in my head because I live in Colorado Springs, and Cheyenne Mountain, the NORAD Center is just on the southwest edge of town here, and basically by the time the guys on the moon got done with it, Cheyenne Mountain wasn't here anymore.
It was a pile of rubble.
They dropped so many moon rocks on it, they blew it to smithereens.
Yeah, and then luckily that that wouldn't happen in real life. You know?
Oh God, I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, I am surrounded by high-value targets here.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, and if the poop ever hit the propeller, well, I'll just be a shadow on a wall somewhere, I'm afraid.
Oh wow. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah, me too. So this is interesting. I'm looking here. Is this little guy? Is this? Oh, did I just see one right there?
Huh?
I think I just saw one right there. A little streak, zip, right there. Make note of the time. We'll go back and look. Yeah, it's approaching 11 o'clock, so we're starting to see a few more things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Oumuamua was a interesting thing, and Avi Loeb from the Harvard Observatory. Avi and I we work separately but together on a CBS show, and we discussed Oumuamua, and he actually had a suggestion. Again, Avi Loeb's a serious astronomer at Harvard, so you wouldn't expect these professors to that are tenured guys to step out of the track, so to speak, and make a statement that could get people to look at them funny. But he did, and I respect him for it because I could understand his point. It didn't change direction intelligently. It changed direction based on the gravity of the sun, of course, but still, because it didn't do everything as predicted. That's how it was determined that it was not exactly a round object or whatever. The motion dictated part of its shape, and so when figuring out the shape of the object, you had to take into account. Oh, I just saw another one. Straight up from the center, I think. And what happened was the Oumuamua actually had some movements that seemed odd. It didn't follow the expected trajectory, and it turns out it was because of its shape. Well, that said, Avi had suggested that maybe this was a ancient spacecraft. He said he wasn't saying it was, and he wasn't trying to float that like he thought it was. He was offering it as a possibility that you just couldn't deny. And he's absolutely right. He thought, well, maybe this was a solar sail type craft from a distant civilization. I mean, clearly it was really had that red exterior. It's a radiation induced reddening of the material on the surface, a hard crust from billions of years in space. So it was pretty cool, to hear him talk about that. But we're getting more and more, people in academia that are stepping out of the established lanes to talk about these things, because it is true. Our universe is a very strange place, and it's getting stranger the more we learn about it. And in terms of things like fast radio bursts, in terms of things like where our science doesn't understand, we didn't know what fast radio bursts were. We still don't fully understand them, but fast radio bursts come from galaxies 10 billion light years away, or less or more. And the interesting thing about these is that they last an extremely short amount of time. They're called millisecond bursts because they only last for milliseconds. And they come from such a long distance that by the time they get here, their energy is still intact, which means that at the source, the energy must have been absolutely, stupendously, colossally high.
Yep.
In order to go all that distance. Because when we look at energies like that of radiation, the intensity falls off as the square of the distance. So when something gets 4 times further away from its source, its energy is 16 times fainter. So imagine going billions of light years. How strong did that have to be such that we could detect it here, billions of light years away? It had to be absolutely immense. Everything in that host galaxy where it occurred had to have known it went off. And it had to be the brightest object ever seen in the history of that galaxy for one brief second. And the question was, well, what are these things? What are these fast radio bursts? Not only that, what can they tell us? These fast radio bursts, it turns out there's one theory that is out there. Yeah, Dalai, that's a plane going through Cassiopeia right now. And what do fast radio bursts do? Well, fast radio bursts, they actually are thought to be flares from a special kind of neutron star. A neutron star with an extremely high magnetic field. And that type of neutron star is called a magnetar. I mean, I think that's a great name for a villain, a superhero villain. You know, I am Magnetar. I shall destroy you with my magnetism, you know. And it's true, the magnetism of a magnetar, the magnetic field is so strong it would literally rip your atoms to shreds. You know, and you don't even have to be that close for that to happen. So the magnetic field, it would send off the star would set off flares, and then this highly charged magnetic field that is part of the magnetar's components, a composition, shoots off and strikes other debris that might have already been ejected by the star. That induces crazy magnetic fields that all focus the energy from that flare in one direction and shoot off this gigantic flare and actually accelerate it and amplify it. Now, that doesn't sound crazy because when we look at the sun, we see the surface of the sun, and you know it's around, you know what, like 9,000 Fahrenheit, okay, you know, 5,000 or so, you know, Kelvin, and when 5,900, and when we look at the corona, the outer atmosphere above the surface of the sun, well, that can sometimes be up to 10 million Kelvin. And it's like, wait a minute, how can the outer atmosphere of the sun be hotter than the actual stuff inside of it? And the answer is that nobody really knows yet. We do understand there's some mechanisms. Yeah, Magneto, yeah. There is some mechanisms that are in the sun that might actually cause these waves of energy to go out into the outer corona of the sun, the outer atmosphere, and cause it to superheat. And that superheating is something that is little understood. You know, very, very interesting, but it's little understood. You know, so it's actually an interesting thought as to how these fast radio bursts occurred and why they're occurring. But you know what? Fast radio bursts also tell us something else. We thought that there was nothing between the galaxies, really. We knew there was some matter between galaxies, but we thought that most of the matter was tied up in the galaxies. Turns out, the fast radio bursts, when they get here, these little cosmic bullets, okay, as they're racing through the interstellar medium, they're striking other stuff that's in between the galaxies, where our galaxy and the galaxy that it originated in. And as it goes through that interstellar medium, it changes that signal just a little bit. And when it finally gets to us, billions and billions of years later, it's changed to the point where we can tell what changed it. And that change is based on something called the dispersion. That's the basically, think of it as lengthening of the signal, where one part of the signal is actually held back a little bit and slowed down. And so we can tell how it's happened. We can tell what part of the signal is slowed down, and from that we can tell what kind of material could interact with the signal to slow it down. And that's how we learned about other dark matter that's out there. It's part of it. Now, you might not know this, but when an ice skater has his or her arms out and they're spinning, as they close in their arms, they spin faster, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, that's Newtonian physics. You can actually calculate how fast they're going to go. When you look at a galaxy, you would think that the stars closer to the center of the galaxy are going to rotate around the galaxy faster than the stars way out at the edge, right? They don't. They rotate around the galaxy at approximately the same time. And that is one of the oddest things. It violates it violates Newtonian physics. So what is that? Well, it can happen if there's more mass near the center of the galaxy than we know. And that's precisely what we found. Dark matter is in high abundance near the center of the galaxy. Matter that we cannot see. That's the only reason we call it dark. It's not black. It's not hiding. It's just matter we don't yet see. And, that's really interesting, and when we look at the universe in general, there are so many mysteries that we don't know the answers to. I'm amazed that we've gotten this far, to be honest. Because coupled with dark matter is dark energy. And what's dark energy? Well, dark energy is this repulsive force. I don't mean it's ugly and you can't stand looking at it. I mean it's repulsive. It pushes. Okay, rather than like gravity that pulls. The old saying, gravity sucks. Well, that's true. But the repulsive force of dark energy is something that is responsible for changing a whole lot of what we thought we understood about the universe. Number one, the universe, we thought, was expanding and possibly slowing down as it expands, as all the mass inside the expansion starts to, act on the whole universe as a whole with its gravity and slow it down. That was one thought. And it turns out that the expansion of the universe is accelerating. In other words, it's getting faster and faster every moment. And that is sort of a prospect we didn't understand at all. So the only thing that makes sense to explain that observation is the existence of this material called dark energy. And it's kind of like a placeholder right now, We don't really know what dark energy is. And Weird Guy is saying exactly correct. Maybe it's on the outside of our universe and regular mass is attracted to it, and so it's being pulled outward at an accelerating rate. Now there's a couple of problems with that. If that's true, then we have an issue with the age of the universe. Why is that? Well, by studying the expansion rate of the universe, back when Edwin Hubble was working on it, I think like 1929 even, we had a value for something called the Hubble constant. And it was basically a measure of the rate of expansion of the universe. We get that value, boom, done, excellent, right? Well, the only problem with that is that the rate of expansion of the universe is something that has not remained constant. Something isn't right about it, and that's something that we have to address. So, in looking at the Planck the Planck telescope actually, and looking at its results, they discovered that the universe has actually not been behaving very well, frankly, and it looks as if the universe might be younger than we thought. And by younger than we thought, I mean younger. So it might even be 1 billion years younger than we thought. That is amazing. Now, I'm inside, by the way, so you can't blame me for what's happening to the camera right now. I have to go out there, and I've got to wipe off the camera. Do you see that, Daryl?
Dew on the lens?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's okay. It's it's a protective lens. So it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel for you all the same.
It's okay. I'm gonna go out and take care of it.
Okay. Well, I'll regale the troops again while you're gone, I guess.
I think that would be wonderful. I'll be right back.
Dark matter, dark energy. Some people, they call those placeholders because they don't really know what it is. And because we can't see it, well, they call it dark. Mary Grace Kirby, is it dark, parentheses, invisible energy, not able to be seen because the light hasn't gotten to us yet, or something else? We talked last week on Mark's radio show about some new findings in astronomy, astrophysics, where they're hoping to be able to view objects and events in 3 different measures of existence. One is electromagnetic radiation, one is particles, and one is gravitational waves, like with the recent LIGO Virgo gravitational wave detections, the famous neutron star collision a couple of years ago, and a bunch of black hole collisions they've seen since. Your question, Mary Grace, because the light hasn't gotten to us yet, question mark? Well, one of the things they have confirmed with these new studies relating to what I just mentioned, they call it the trifecta, seeing events in 3 different areas of astrophysics. They have confirmed that gravity seems to propagate at the speed of light. So at least if the dark energy, for want of a better word, what's pulling everything from the outside, I guess, is the way it's thought, per what Mark said. If it's gravitational, pulling from outside our universe, well, oh God, that's a difficult question because, if it's outside our universe, by nature, we will never see it. So we would never see the light. I would think then, if something outside our universe is pulling us to cause us to accelerate our rate of expansion, it would have to be pretty darn exotic stuff. And that gets back to the whole idea of, what is dark matter and dark energy in the first place. I have problems with dark matter and dark energy. I don't mean to poo-poo it, but Mark and I have talked about this before. This is why I gave up on cosmology as it presently stands. Cosmology is a study of the universe, okay, and where it came from and where it's going. I'm old-fashioned, I guess. I like the idea and the symmetry of an oscillating universe. The old yin-yang model of the Big Bang and the Big Boom and the big collapse, and it happens all over again. That's more of a philosophical thing in my part, not scientific, but some of modern cosmology gets to me now that I don't know. I think they're grasping at straws. I don't know how else to put it. It's frankly over my head.
Well, look, I think the truth is that we've seen enough things in the universe to know that sometimes the fantastical is normal for the universe.
Yes, absolutely.
Like a massive black hole in the middle of galaxies, known as supermassive black holes. These are monsters. The black hole in the middle of Messier 87, for instance, the large galaxy in Virgo, where we imaged the black hole for the very first time in human history. The diameter is 6 times that of our solar system. 6 times that.
Yep.
And that's a massive black hole. You have to think about that. There's so much mass. See, the diameter of a black hole, people say, well, wait, it's supposed to be like this, what's called a singularity, an infinitely small point. Yes. Okay, let's just accept that. But it also creates, depending on its mass, it has a diameter beyond which, if you cross into it, light can no longer get out. It continues to circle around on itself.
Right. The event horizon.
That's
or the
right.
Schwarzschild radius.
Right. And the Schwarzschild radius is that location beyond which light, or less than which light can no longer escape. And so the radius will increase depending on the mass. So for the radius of that Schwarzschild radius to be 3 times our solar system size, with it making it a diameter of 6 times, means there has to be an absolutely stupendous amount of mass in that black hole for the Schwarzschild radius to be 6 times the size of our solar system. Keep in mind, it took us 15 years to get the New Horizons probe out to Pluto. And that's the radius. Basically 3 times that, okay, is, that's the radius. 3 times our solar system's radius, which is from Earth to Sun to Pluto. Okay, and it took us 15 years to get there. How long would it take us to cross the face of the black hole? 30 years. Just to cross the diameter, right? I mean, that's
yes,
crazy.
I read you. Well, I've always wondered, and I think I've heard arguments against the idea that, rather than conjure up bizarre things like dark matter and dark energy, missing mass, I've always wondered, per some of the comments in chat, that, what if it's a lot of black holes out there? Many black holes, many, M-A-N-I, A-M-N-Y, many, M-I-N-I, many black holes. Or great big honking black holes, for that matter.
Well, that's possible. But you also have to remember that, how would we get a micro black hole? Where would that come from? How would one of those little mini black holes be generated?
Right. I think the answer sometimes goes back to maybe it was created during the Big Bang.
That's right. And to me, that answer is like grasping at straws, because it's like when you say, well, it had to be there, from the very beginning. We probably would have seen the evidence of it long before that. We would have been able to figure that out ahead of time. To then say, well, we postulate mini black holes. Well, why? Because they had to be around from the beginning of the universe, because it's a way we can explain A, B, and C. Okay, but A, B, and C aren't the only things that would be affected by a mini black hole. We have D, E, and F that would also, D, E, and F that would be affected by a black hole as well. Mini black hole. So you see, it becomes a convenience for one set of conundrums, but it then stands in the face of others, and it can't. So I don't know. I personally think that it's easier to believe dark energy exists than to believe dark energy and dark matter exist, than to believe there's some kind of oscillation going on when there's no evidence for the oscillation.
Yeah. Well, it's all, ultimately to me, it's all idle speculation.
Yeah.
Is it going to get us somewhere? I don't know.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I was as big into cosmology as anybody, and it got sticky, and it didn't, it wasn't intuitive anymore, and it's not philosophically satisfying for me, so I just kind of ignore it anymore.
Well,
a lot of times I feel like Hoyle in the old steady state dives,
Fred Hoyle
Yeah, the universe has passed me by.
Fred Hoyle, folks, was a famous astronomer and also a cosmologist who had his thoughts as to the beginning of the universe. I actually read a lot of Fred Hoyle's work in the past. Didn't always agree with it, but you know, I do know that for us to believe.
Whoa, nice one. 231315.
Okay.
Up, upper left, heading up to the left. And yes, it was a Perseid. It came right out of the constellation.
Awesome. I missed it.
Nice one. Big bright green tail and a golden head.
I missed it. But then again, I missed when we caught the meteor hitting the moon, but it was in our stream. We did catch it in the stream.
Yes.
Yep, and so it begins, folks. So I'll be going out there cleaning off the camera quite a bit, I assume.
So it looks like the image got better. I guess you really were suffering from dew then, huh?
I did have dew, and it looks like there might be some more already. I'm going to have to go out there and I may have to go make a dew cap, folks, you know, to cover the camera during the time that we're doing this. That might be a good idea, actually. Do you see the haziness down to the bottom?
I do.
Yeah, I think that's the beginning of it again. I think I'm going to have to go out there and put a dew cap on. You want to cover things for a little while I go do a construction project?
Oh, yeah. What, you got black construction paper or something? Rubber bands?
I do.
Cool.
I shall be back, folks. Yeah, I got to do it without changing the focus, though. Hey, guys, I'll be back in just a little while, and you'll see me doing it. Be right back. Thank you, Daryl, for taking care of that.
Oh, sure. Mary Grace Kirby, our black hole's dark energy. Well, you know how I feel about dark energy. Could possibly a black hole swallow up all the light? That is the definition of the Schwarzschild radius, or the event horizon. That's like the singularity is a little mathematical point where all the mass went. The actual black hole itself is the singularity, but then wherever the escape velocity of the singularity at a distance away from it when that exceeds the speed of light, that basically reaches the speed of light. That defines the Schwarzschild radius, or the event horizon, where nothing can escape the black hole, including the light. If it's farther away than that, if it's farther out, like in the accretion disk, which is a disk of matter, like a donut, orbiting around the black hole, it is outside the event horizon, and we can see that. It can be seen, and sometimes it's very energetic. So it puts off all sorts of radiation, for want of a better word, different spectra of light, and you know, everything from infrared up through visible light and on to X-rays and gamma rays. I hope I answered your question. I'm just a doubting Thomas sort. When scientists start, hi Papa Tom, when they have to start making stuff up to fit empty places, well, I have my doubts. I'm sorry. I'm just like that. I'm from Missouri originally. You have to show me, you know. Excuse me. Well, this sucks what Mark's going through. His optics are doing up. This is the same thing as like when you set out a cold pitcher of lemonade on a hot summer day and it starts sweating on the outside, you know. All the water runs off the outside of the pitcher. Well, the same sort of thing is happening here with his optics right now. Moisture is condensing out of the air onto the glass. And when you got thousands of dollars of glass in front of your camera, you kind of worry about it a little bit. I think he's coming back again. I thought I heard him. Weird guy, yeah, maybe. Who knows? I mean, that stuff I hope we learn one day, but probably not in my lifetime. I think stuff like that, though, what's out there that we don't know yet, this gets back to that trifecta deal I talked about a little while ago, where who knows what we can learn if we can examine an event or an object in three completely different regimens of investigation, electromagnetic, particle, and gravitational. If we could nail all three down at the same time, I think that is a way that, golly, we talk about learning how to go faster than light or going really, really fast at any rate. Maybe that's something we may find from stuff like that. That's pretty trippy. That's like a light show. Tom, he's not in the dome, I don't think. I thought he just had the camera on a tripod outside, so he's exposed. He's presently trying to fashion a dew shield over the end of the lens to help keep the moisture away from it. Got his red miner's lamp on. As a general thing, though, if he was in the dome, could he run some heat in it? What they often do is they put a little low energy resistance band around the body of the optic, the telescope or the camera lens in this case, and heat it very slightly. Very slightly is all it needs. You just need to raise the dew point a little bit, and the moisture will go away or stay away. And there are people who will happily sell you such heater bands for your telescopes. Doesn't take much, just a few degrees is all it takes. There he is. Yes, weird guy. I still want to call you W13. I know you're weird guy. Yeah, they've been doing some really amazing things with LIGO. And since the first big splash after that neutron star collision 2 years ago, last year, 2 years ago, they have been doing a lot of work with it. And it's kind of off the radar now, no pun intended. But, it's ongoing science, and they're still working with it. We just don't hear about it like that first big event was. It made such a big splash in the news. They have been, we talked about this a few weeks ago on the KGRA radio show, that they have been detecting a lot of black hole collisions, not neutron stars, but real black holes. And interestingly, watching gravitational waves from colliding black holes is very different looking than the gravitational waves from colliding neutron stars. They've gotten to where they can read the details. They can read the fine print, so to speak. in the LIGO results, and they're getting better every day at it. They can analyze and tell a whole lot about what happened during each event, and it's only going to get better. Hello, John. I'll try to remember that. I'm pretty bad with names. If you're a pretty girl, it helps, but I'll try to remember John.
Okay, that looks odd.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it looks a little odd, but
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
well, it's a wide-angle lens,
Yeah, I hear you.
so it's protecting the lens from the dew and giving us a view of what we need to see.
Uh-huh. Well, we'll see how well it works. Hopefully you don't have to shut down.
Yeah, no, well, you're right. Hey, Papa Tom, good to see you. See, what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually see if a meteor that we see here can be seen at the same time by Bill, and we could then take that information and figure out a lot of things about the meteor if it's the same one. We can figure out its altitude, its speed. We can figure out its angle of attack. We can figure out a whole lot about it.
Yeah. Oh, they do that with the all-sky cameras they have around the country.
Yep.
There's one just up west or a little bit southwest of here, a little place called Guppy, Colorado.
Okay.
It's over on the far side of Pikes Peak, a little town. And former president of the local astronomy club has an observatory up there called Cloudbait Observatory, if I remember right. Chris Peterson is his name.
Yeah.
He runs one of the all-sky cameras up there.
Okay.
Get some neat results, too.
I see we're getting some clouds down here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, some high altitudes.
Tom, I was born and raised in Springfield, Missouri, down in the southwest part, down in the Ozarks. I came to Colorado when I turned 21. I've been here ever since. And I'm old now, if that tells you anything. Still a hillbilly at heart, though.
Don't admit that.
Hey, I'm proud of that. I got lots of class, mostly low, you know.
That's funny. Yeah, no, you're not low class. So, I'll tell you this too, Daryl. I'm actually about to pull the trigger on another filter that I can use on the telescope when we're actually doing our stuff and in our deep sky tours. And I'm thinking that I might go for something called an ultra high contrast filter. Because I'm thinking it might be pretty good. And the only problem is, to do this right, to actually do and get the best photos you could ever take, we need to get 3 separate filters and do 3 separate sets of exposures. Okay, we need an O3 filter like Daryl let me borrow one time. We need a hydrogen alpha filter and another filter to actually be able to get these 3 separate band passes, and then we combine those to make this beautiful final image. And unfortunately, that would just be kind of boring for the people who are watching, because I'm not going to sit here and take 10 photos of the dumbbell with the sulfur, 10 photos with hydrogen alpha, 10 photos with the O3, because by that time it's time to end the stream, so I figured I just I'll just get one good ultra high contrast type filter and go from there, and just go from there.
Well, I know that's the ethos of your whole SkyTour LiveStream thing. You want to keep the exposure short and keep them timely, and
Right.
show neat stuff to your audience.
That's exactly right, and yeah, honestly, this audience for SkyTour LiveStream, probably the best audience on planet Earth.
Sure.
They come here to see the night sky and the deep sky stuff, and occasionally we do this, meteor streams. And we've seen a couple so far tonight. I am telling you, I keep seeing little ones here and there, and I kind of think that's interesting. But you know what? We'll see. I lightened it up just a little bit to get a little more sensitivity going here. Yeah. And D. Smith, I'm noticing that there is there's a pulsing of the image, like you said. I'm not sure what's causing that. It actually, it could very well be because of the fact that I have Daryl on Skype, and I know that I have my son who's in law school upstairs right above me, and he's streaming stuff down on Netflix for sure, and that does eat up some of the bandwidth. It would actually be worse, big time, if I were to actually, have stayed with the old internet system. Hoo-wee. My upload speed now is a lot faster than it used to be, and even so, it still can't quite keep up sometimes. But then again, I have 2 boys.
Yeah.
My youngest is on the 3rd floor up there, and he's up there zapping away playing games. My oldest is actually streaming Netflix right now, and I'm still able to stream. This could not happen last time. This would not happen. So we're okay. Yeah, it's actually staying focused, but you're right. And it's kind of maddening. There might be something I can do in OBS, which is the broadcasting software I'm using, but I'm not sure. It's possible that I could do something with OBS. And
you mentioned Skype. Am I slowing you down?
well, yeah, but no, it's okay, because the bottom line is it's not going to be as big a problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not
you
worried
need me to
about that.
bail, let me know.
Nope, I don't.
Okay.
Not at all. Okay, let's see here. I'm actually bit rate. Let's see if I can increase this. All right, I'm increasing my bit rate a little bit, and I'm gonna see what that does. Okay. Boy, look at that. Those clouds are moving in, aren't they? You know what's weird? The clouds come in, and they're coming in from the wrong direction. The clouds never come from the northeast. And yet here they come from the northeast. It's absolutely crazy.
I think Bill had a cloud come in last night that did the same thing. It sort of came from the opposite direction.
Yeah, it must be like, they're streaming. Come on, guys, let's destroy it. Dee says you cannot bail, and I agree.
Okay.
Well, by increasing the bit rate, it looks like jury's still out, but it appears like it might be a little better. I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll see. It takes time to figure this stuff out. All I know is we're looking right here. This is where we're looking. Right in here. Right in here. This is actually within the circle. Within the circle of the field, that's where we can expect to see some meteors. And by the way, have you ever? I don't know if you've ever seen this, Daryl. When you look at the sky and you look for meteors, and then all of a sudden you see this bright flash, which doesn't move anywhere, but it's a bright flash right there in the sky. I'm wondering, and without you saying, because I know you know what it is, I wonder if people know what that is when they just see a bright flash. It doesn't go anywhere. So, folks in chat, tell us. Tell us what you think that is when you see a bright flash during a meteor shower. It doesn't, not a streak, but just a flash. Okay. And we'll be here. It's still your turn. Thanks.
Oh, I could speculate and mention a couple of possibles, but I don't think that's what you want.
Not yet.
Let's see what the audience has to say.
Yeah, I want to see what they say. Hey, Mr. Transits, what's up? How are you? Thanks for coming out. Yeah, I'm sure people would know. So Mary Grace is saying she doesn't know. I've seen it many times. I'm sure you have. It's actually something that you can check out and see quite a lot if you're aware of it. Okay, so nope. Good guess, Mary Grace. And DK got it. It's a meteor that's coming directly at you.
Yep.
I've seen those before.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
My other thought was people might have been seeing an iridium satellite flare. I know they are, or they have replaced the entire Iridium constellation. Have they deorbited all the old satellites now?
I'm not sure if they've all been deorbited. I just know that they are being, they are going into obsolescence, and so. However, if they're still up there, you'll still see iridium flashers, and these are very, very highly reflective satellites that actually. They don't rotate and roll around in their orbit. It's just that they have a very shiny surface so that the sun glints off of them. And that glare you can see down on the ground, when the satellite passes over you. I remember I had a Mars party here one night. We had 2 or 3 telescopes set up out on the front lawn, okay? And there were a lot of people here. And as the last person left, and I was cleaning up the last of our cheese balls all over the ground that we called the Mars balls. I looked up, and I was treated to 2 beautiful, bright iridium satellites that were flaring at that point. The reflection the reflection was actually passing over me from not one but two satellites at the same time. One was
I've seen that before.
Yeah,
Yes.
one was behind the other in orbit, and it looked like
Yep.
two big eyes up in the sky. It was so bright when I looked down I could see the shadow of my legs on the ground from it. I mean, it stands to reason. It's sunlight that we're seeing.
Sure.
Reflected sunlight.
I saw two nearly simultaneous iridiums once. One popped and then the other one did right behind it. The angle of the dangle was just so that the second sat swept up behind the first one, and one flashed and the other one flashed just a moment later.
Yep. Now, the flashes don't have to
and-
be quick. I mean, the typical iridium flasher or flare, it takes maybe a second to get to its peak brightness and then maybe another second to dim out on average. It can go a little longer, a little shorter, but they don't just go flip and they're gone. It's actually like a... It's even slower than that even. Because, it's a dance up in orbit. It's a high speed to the satellite, but slow to us. Hey Mario, good to see you. A lot of people coming that have been here before, and they are coming back to say hi. I love it. Mario Lafreniere, thank you for coming out.
Hello, Mario. DK, the answer for me at least is no. I've never used a metal detector. I've never really hunted meteors, your meteorites you're talking. I've never used a metal detector. I own several meteorites, but I've never really hunted them.
I think we actually did use a metal detector to try and locate iron meteorites. But, it was an unfortunate situation because sadly there was just way too much crap out there, and everything that's metal will show up. A top of a can, a piece of aluminum. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't satisfying in the end. My youngest son has a metal detector. He's really big into that. For fun. And I think his dream is to go to the old World War II battlefields, like in Hurtgen Forest, and start looking for old World War II relics. He'd love to do that. But unfortunately, those are also graveyards, so you can't go there and do that.
Yeah.
Mario, I'm glad you're finally back. I know that you've been around here and there. Amanda has been at Bill's tonight, and Daryl was at Bill's. Daryl's here now with us. We're going through here, and just so you know, in the screen here, this is Cassiopeia up here. All right, and Cassiopeia is right above Perseus, which is right here. This is what we're looking for right here. So somewhere in this field of view, we will see meteors come through, because this is the radiant from which they are emitting. This curved thing here is my makeshift mask. I just rolled up some paper and put some paper clips and elastic to hold it on the front of the camera, because the camera was getting dew on it. Pretty
Appears
quick.
to be working.
Yeah. It'll stave off the dew for a little while, but of course we will lose the battle at some point.
I'd worry about those clouds building up.
Yeah, I'm watching
We'll
them. Yeah, I'm watching them. These clouds are nobody's fun, but we'll still see meteors through the clouds.
I remember one of the first years when the Leonids were ramping up back in the late 90s. There were occasional clouds, and that was the year they looked like Roman candles to me. I mean, they were all very bright and colorful.
Yeah.
And you could see them going off behind the clouds sometimes. That was really something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's really true. And one of the things that I want to do is, and I haven't added it yet to the observatory, but I'm going to, and that is a little radio that's going to listen for meteors.
Cool.
Yeah, because when meteors enter the atmosphere, they actually give off a little burst of radio waves. I mean, if you it stands to reason, doesn't it? When a meteor enters Earth's atmosphere, it starts getting heated up, and it begins to melt, and the stuff becomes ablated. That is to say, fried off of it basically, and it just trails behind the meteor. And radio waves are just longer wavelength light. So in the radio frequency, you also get some noise. So you can also hear the meteors come in and make this little high-pitched whine. And it's really cool. So if we're doing a little bit of a deep sky stream, we can always have the meteor radio on and hear the meteor radio. And if we hear it, we'll say, hey, a meteor just came in,
That would be great.
We may not even see it,
Yeah.
It works day or night, so it's kind of cool.
Papa Tom, I saw an old guy on TV a long time ago. He had a tractor, and he lived in the desert, and he took, it looked like a railroad tie. It was about that big, a big wooden piece. He wrapped it with wire and built his own electromagnet, and he would go driving across the desert, dragging that tie behind him, and seeing what stuck to the electromagnet. He got a lot of nails and horseshoes and stuff like that, but he also got a lot of nickel iron meteorites.
Yeah, and if you just want to capture some meteoric dust, then what you can do is you can literally lay a white bed sheet out in your yard and come back and visit it the next night or next day, and pass over it with a magnet, and you can catch this micrometeorite dust, which will be the stuff that sticks to the magnet. Okay, and I did that as a kid, and man, what an eye-opener. It was so enjoyable to go hunting for meteors. It's like, wow, I got meteors, Ma.
I've heard of people putting a bucket under their downspouts on their gutters.
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
And putting a magnet in the bucket and
Yep.
checking the bucket occasionally, and anything sticking to the magnet is meteoritic in origin.
Yeah, and what happens is you have the surface area of your roof that's catching this dust, and then it gets shunted to one of these downspouts, and it's like, all right. Yep. Yeah, exactly, Mario. You run a magnet in your house gutters, yeah. Your neighbors will think you're crazy, but so what? Come on, you're hunting meteors.
Sure.
Dalai just saw one. Where was it, Dalai? Actually, let me just show you. I don't have the graphic right now, but this is zone 1, this is zone 2, this is zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, zone 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tell us where it was. All right.
I wonder who came up with that system. I know Bill's been using that as long as I've been coming around here.
Yeah, and I actually have a graphic that I could just superimpose and show people the zones, but I actually don't know where it is.
Yeah. Zone 1 at top left to zone 3 at top right.
Yep.
Zone 4 at bottom left and zone 6 at bottom right.
Yep. And zone 2 and zone 5 overlap, are in the middle.
Yeah.
He's at zone 3, so the upper right. Okay, zone 3 to zone 6. Alright, cool. We should see one good meteor here soon. I ordered a good meteor, so it better be here. Better get here in time. Hey, Astro Live. Welcome to the stream, man.
Astro.
I could just keep like taking the cursor going, and someone will say, "Hey, I saw one." Yes, you did. It looked like an arrow. We've had several meteors, Astro. Nothing with a big. Well, there was actually one that was pretty good, right? I missed it.
Yeah, it was up. It was like Zone 1, I think.
Okay.
It was pretty bright. It had a long green tail and looked like a yellow or golden head to it.
Yeah.
Don't know if you'd quite call it a fireball, but it was nice and bright.
Yeah.
I have a fireball story to tell while we sit and wait.
All right.
This was way back when the second Star Wars movie came out, The Empire Strikes Back. I was back in Missouri, back home on vacation, and the whole big circle of friends, we all went to the movie. Okay, and it was, it was really cool. And after the movie, we went back to one couple's house, and we were all sitting in a big circle in the dark in the backyard.
Okay.
And two of the women folk went inside to get drinks for people, and one guy at the south side of the circle stood up and he gestured, shaking his, stretching his arms out over his head and gesticulating. He goes, "Boy, what I really liked about the movie." And it was like right between his hands with his arms outstretched, like he had conjured it, A huge fireball, a bolide came in. It was going from east to west, and that thing must have broke into hundreds of pieces. It was amazing. It was huge. And everybody in the yard saw it, and they went, "Ooh." And
But
they
he
did
didn't.
it so loud that
He didn't.
he was facing directly away from it. Yeah, he didn't see it. But it was tremendous. It was probably the best fireball I ever saw.
Wow.
And the women heard the ooh, and they came running out. They knew something had happened. They went, "Oh, what did we miss? What did we miss?" This thing was just tremendous. It wasn't going really fast.
Yeah.
But God, it was big.
Had
and
to be
when
after
it
midnight,
broke,
huh?
it just shattered into hundreds of pieces.
Yeah.
It was about the size if in the sky, if you were holding a basketball at arm's length,
Yeah.
it filled about that big an area in the sky.
Wow.
Just tremendous bowling.
Well, you know what? I remember I was up in Maine looking for meteors one night, and we were standing out in the middle of a field, and all of a sudden, from all the way on the right horizon, I see this light coming, and it's moving fast, and it's leaving a trail of smoke behind it. It starts to get near the center of our vision, and I talked to my niece's husband, Scott. I said, "Scott, look, it's a meteor." He looks at it, and he goes, "Holy cow, let me see the binoculars." I hand him the binoculars. He looks at it. He's watching it as it's crossing the sky. And he goes, "Check it out," and he hands me the binoculars, and I look at it. There was that much time because it was small. It was moving very slowly across the sky, not like a plane at all. It was moving a lot faster than that. And in the time it took me to give him the binoculars, he gets a quick look, hands them to me, I get a quick look, it was gone. But boy, oh boy, that was really exciting. Really exciting. And this, by the way, guys, this is Perseids right down here. You can actually see this is the bottom of Cassiopeia here, the bottom of the W. The rest of the W is just off the screen. It's down like this. Comes down about here, and right about here is a faint double cluster of stars. Is this Algol here?
I believe it is, yes.
Algol is, I believe it's a variable star in Perseids, but it's also a very bright star, yes? I'm not sure the magnitude.
Yeah, it's called the Demon Star, and I believe Algol represents the Medusa's head in Perseids' hand.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, so this is Perseus, the radiant from which it appears the meteors originate from. So they might go, you might see them coming like this, or like this, or like that, or like that, any direction, but they're coming at us from our upper atmosphere and just off of our planet. They're not coming from anywhere near the stars. It just is the direction that they appear to be in every year at the same time.
Yeah, if you can see that little triangle of stars right near center, that is Perseus's head. That's his magic helmet he's wearing. And the radiant is just to the left side of that triangle.
It's more like a dunce cap.
Yes, exactly. It looks like a dunce cap. But hey, they didn't have dunce caps in ancient Greece. They wore helmets, So.
Yes, I know.
That's his magic helmet.
Yep.
I think that made him invisible, if I remember correctly.
Interesting. When I was a little kid, I thought closing my eyes made me invisible. Boy, was I wrong when my mother's hand found my butt. Oh, swat. Ow! I was invisible. So.
That's kind of like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. They can't see me if I can't see them.
That's right. Hey, it worked for the ostrich. I thought it was okay,
Yeah.
Man. Interesting. We've been at this 2 hours, 37 minutes. When we started, Cassiopeia was down here, and now it's up here. North Star is just over here. I've got it just out of the field. But we're staring right at Perseus right here, just to see what we can see. Yep.
Other meteors I've seen, some that come to mind. Again, this was, I want to say it was 1998, but I always seem to be a year off. It was when the Leonids were ramping up for the big show in 2001, or 2000, I think, 99 or 2000. It was midnight, and I was bombing down a back road way out in the southeast corner of El Paso County here, out on the plains, and there's an occasional farmhouse, but that's it.
Yep.
Somebody's calling me.
All right, well.
I have no idea who that was. Brian Stone?
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm bombing down on this back road headed east, and Leo is rising right in front of me, okay? I mean, it literally just broke the horizon.
Okay.
And the radiant point of the Leonid shower is inside the backwards question mark, the sickle it's called, which represents the head of Leo, the head and the mane of Leo. And this was the same year as the one I mentioned a while ago, where they were all so colorful they looked like Roman candles.
Yep.
They were coming straight out of the radiant right at me, and some of them were staying completely inside the curve of the sickle,
Yep.
And I would look at these, and some of them look like when you see a bottle rocket go off and it kind of wavers and moves back and forth a little bit as it shoots forward.
Yep.
One of them was doing that. It was amazing to see. And they just kept streaming right out of the lion's head right at me.
Wow.
And every one was really bright and really colorful. That was super cool. That was one of the better meteor displays I ever saw.
Wow.
But it got better the next year, and it got better the year after that when the real storm hit, which I want to say was 2000, but that was the night we saw, hourly rates were like over 3,000 meteors an hour. Pretty much anywhere you looked at the sky at any time, you saw a meteor.
Yeah, that's a true impact with a debris cloud. We don't see that. By the way, I want to say hi to Katie. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for finding us. So I think that it's interesting because these meteors, when they hit the Earth's atmosphere, they're moving, quite a few miles per second, and they leave these streaks in the sky that are very bright. Yet most of the meteors you see are no bigger than a grain of sand. But you're actually watching what happens when something the size of a grain of sand impacts the atmosphere at high speed. It gives off so much energy. A lot of that energy of its motion is converted into heat, and so that takes that kinetic energy of that object hitting the Earth's atmosphere and converts it into thermal energy, because that's the only place for it to go. And so the sand is, little grain of sand is vaporized with an extremely bright light, bright light as it does so. Yep. And now we've got a very slow moving meteor right here. See? Just kidding. We have an aircraft passing through the view. That's one of the overnight planes heading over to, well, probably could be heading to Charles de Gaulle or Barcelona or something like that. Yes, indeed.
When I flew to Germany in 1990, we were on a Lockheed L-1011 from Dallas Airport heading to Frankfurt overnight. And, I think it was 5 p.m. when we left Dallas. And we headed northeast, flying the Great Circle route.
Yeah, right.
And it was interesting. It got dark pretty quick. And we could see a lot of lights down below us, a lot of cities in the U.S., and at some point we crossed the Canadian border and we still saw a good number of lights down below us for a while, but then we didn't see any more lights for the rest of the night. We were passing over the far northeast of Canada, and then it was Atlantic Ocean all the way to Europe the next morning. Yeah. And that was really something to see. I had never seen that before.
I remember going over to London. I had to work on a mini-series some years ago. It was a submarine mini-series. And we made all these special effects models and miniatures and visual effects miniatures. And we were going over to film in a water tank with our subs that actually worked. As we were heading over there, we took a route that took us over Greenland. And I'd never seen the Greenland ice sheet before. And you actually understand when you look at this, when you see Greenland for the first time, you realize the maps are all wrong. Greenland is, and this is, of course, back in before I really paid attention to the projections on the maps. Greenland is the size of a major continent.
Yeah.
And when you fly over it, you see that because you see Greenland everywhere you look.
Yep.
And you're flying 39. Actually, we're at 41,000 feet. And at 41,000 feet, Greenland filled the window everywhere you looked.
Yep.
You couldn't see the edge of Greenland anywhere. And it lasted for quite a while. And then when we started to see the eastern glaciers in Greenland, it still took time for those to arrive and pass us. And it's like, wow, Greenland is a lot bigger than I've ever thought,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Our flight, we passed Greenland at night, so we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I was probably asleep by then anyway. But coming back, the flight was in daylight, and we flew just off the southern tip of Greenland, and that was really spectacular to see. Didn't get to fly over it, but it was just out the right-hand side window.
Beautiful, right? I mean, you can see the details of the glaciers and everything.
Oh yeah, mountains and the ocean and little white things in the water, which I assume were icebergs.
Probably were, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing icebergs though. It depends. Actually, we were flying over there in January. So, it was an eerie light, too. That's the other thing, too. I remember it being very eerie looking because we were really far north. So, it was sort of like, not dusk, but it was sort of like a dusky light everywhere you looked, for like hours. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Mario says he spent a week in Greenland. Gotthard? Where's that? Mario, tell us where that is. He will. That's pretty cool. Corey Good going to Mars. Boy, you know how to ruin a stream there, Mario. Yeah, I don't buy any of what Corey Good says. Yeah, Perseus is right here now. It's right there. Oh, it's the capital of Greenland. You were there for a week. What were you doing there? And I'll ask the obvious question: why? Why?
Military?
It's the only thing I could think, right? Or actually a civilian research expedition. You know? Oh, sorry.
Speaking of Greenland, there was a historic, huge nickel iron meteorite discovered there. The locals, the Inuits or whoever, they'd known about it for thousands of years, I guess.
Yeah.
But when modern man got there, well, they learned of its existence, and this thing was many tons in size, and they decided in the interest of science they were going to haul it off to a museum, and they did. And they loaded it on, it was an old, it might have been steam powered, but, it looked like a conventional old ship with sails and masts and all that.
Yeah.
Big old wooden ship. And they got that thing loaded on there, and they hauled it off to New York City, if I remember correctly. And I think that's where it is to this day. And the Greenlanders want their meteorite back.
Really?
Oh, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I sure would. I sure would. Let me pump up the ISO for a second. Okay, you can see the noise. Okay, that's at 16,000 ISO right there. In Cassiopeia, you can see the lower part of the W of Cassiopeia. And then that goes down to Perseus right here. I've learned to appreciate the winter constellations because there really is a lot to see in the winter. And you gotta think of it this way. Right now it's August, and you look to the south and you're looking toward the Sagittarius star cloud. That's toward the center of our galaxy. And if you look to the left a little bit, you come up and up and up and up, and then finally you see Cygnus, the swan, and Lyra. When you see those, you actually see you're looking away from the center of the galaxy. And at the other end of the Milky Way, keep right on going down through Cassiopeia, through which the Milky Way goes, by the way, and you find your way to Orion, which is looking directly away from the center of our galaxy. So we're actually seeing it. We're actually seeing the entire galaxy, the arms of the galaxy, the spiral arms of the galaxy. So, that said, I think that when you understand that spatial relationship, you can actually see how throughout the season the Milky Way is still there. You're just looking at it from a different perspective. Because as the Earth goes around the sun, our nighttime view is now facing a different part of the galaxy. So every time the sun goes down, because the Earth is spinning, the nighttime approaches, and now we're looking toward the new stars that are showing up. And, because of the direction we're moving and so forth, we see that the new sky appears in the east and will move toward the west. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, DK. Good night.
There was a good astrophoto of the day last night or night before of the Milky Way, center of the Milky Way seen from the southern hemisphere. Might have been from New Zealand, I forget. Where did I see that? Maybe it was not at APOD. Might have seen it over at Reddit, but somebody had taken an excellent picture.
Yeah.
And absolutely zero light pollution. I mean, you know, the sky was dead clear all the way to the horizon. The southern, well, no, they were looking north, so from the southern hemisphere, but absolutely zero light pollution. And what really threw me, and always does, was, you know, when you're in the southern hemisphere, it's like Orion is upside down. And in this case, because it was the center of the galaxy, well, it was summer here, but it would have been winter down there. So they were seeing, I remember Scorpius in particular. It was obvious, but the whole thing was upside down. It just always throws me every time I see that.
Yeah.
And then I had to stare at it and visualize, like if I had turned the picture upside down, rotated it 180 degrees, you know, that, hey, there would have been the conventional view of Scorpius with the Milky Way just running off to its off by its tail.
Yeah, and that's something that you know, that those upside down constellations are the simplest argument against the flat earthers. And I don't understand why they just don't care to listen. You know, if you go down below the equator, Orion should not be upside down if we're on a flat Earth.
Yep.
But it is.
Oh, I think they just do it out of pure contrariness.
I can see that sometimes. I just want to answer KDQ. KDQ, the Milky Way in summertime is actually the brightest because we can see the Sagittarius star cloud, and that's toward the center of our Milky Way, and we can see the galactic bulge in our Milky Way. Where the center of the Milky Way is, and as the seasons progress, if we follow the Milky Way up from Sagittarius up to Cygnus, which is more over our heads when we're in the northern hemisphere, then we see that the Milky Way is less, but then we move through Cygnus and keep going, and we end up going to where we're looking at our screen now, which is toward Cassiopeia. And then down through Cassiopeia. Oh, there was one right there. You see that? Beautiful one.
Not yet. How much are you leading?
I have no idea, but you'll see it. It's right here. And down, you'll see the Milky Way right down through here. And then down there below the horizon is Orion to rise later. And that's the other side of the galaxy, the other part of the galactic arms. I did finally get to see a meteor, yay. And it was green, had some green, yellow and green.
Watching.
Yeah, it was right there. It was right here. Just the bottom of zone 1. Oh wait, what's your time?
I just checked against yours when yours rolled over to 0:12 even. I'm about 45 seconds behind you, so you're about 45 seconds behind me. I must have missed it.
All right. Huh.
Darn. That's what I get for running off at the mouth.
Well, D just gave us 0:11:32, zone 2. She means zone 1. Actually, zone 1. Yes. Thank you, D. Yeah, the flat Earth folks are are just sort of nuts. I mean, and for those of you that don't know this, the way I met Amanda, my co-host on SkyTour Radio and SkyTour LiveStream, was when she called me out of the blue one day to say, "Can I have you come on and talk to some guy about flat Earth?" And I said, "Sure." So I was flying into Irvine, California, to speak at the MUFON Symposium. As I pulled in, I get in the shuttle, get to the hotel, and gotta quickly run to the hospitality suite, where I sat with Nick Pope and Lee Spiegel and a few other folks that I know. And we were just talking, and the call came, and I had to take the call and do the show.
Saw it.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. That's you're pretty far behind.
Oh, well, no, I backed up on purpose.
Okay.
Okay, I should be back in real time now.
All right. And then when they called, all right, Amanda set up the call and set up everything. And I got ambushed by these people from Flat Earth. I didn't know they were there to take an astronomer and rip him to shreds. Okay, but that was their agenda. And they mopped the floor with me because I was unprepared. I just got off a plane. And I gave him total credit for that, mopping the floor with me because I was not ready. And I didn't like Amanda after that. I felt she was just like little insidious, person to do this to me, and I really didn't like her. But then, several years later, I realized, after talking to other people that it wasn't her fault. She was just trying to do what Amanda does. She's trying to do the best for whichever show she felt was, a good show to work for, work on. And so I ditched those negative feelings. And wouldn't you know it, lo and behold, Amanda comes along as someone who's, saw another one. Right here. In zone 1 again. Amanda becomes someone who's vital to SkyTour Radio and SkyTour LiveStream. It was very nice.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Oh, she's come so far, too. She's learned so much.
I know. But she hasn't learned how to stay up during the day. So that she'll be ready at night,
Yeah.
She sleeps during the day and she's up all night. And so when I want to talk to her during the day, she's not around. She's sleeping. So I can't plan anything for the SkyTour Radio sometimes. Wait, there's overlap. There's certainly overlap. So incidentally, we just saw 2 meteors in the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. And just so you know, they do pick up after midnight. And here it is, after midnight. And we're actually 3 hours into our stream, by the way. We started around 9 o'clock, if I recall. And we're 2 hours, 59 minutes, 36 seconds. So now they're picking up. And if you notice, the clouds are gone. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But our dew cap is working. It's preventing the dew.
Hey. I think that's Capella just coming out from behind that tree down there at the bottom.
It is indeed, actually.
Yeah.
Right down here is Capella, right there. Yep. That is Capella. Yeah, it's actually pretty nice. Yep. Cassiopeia is rising out of our shot, and Perseus is dominating our shot. Yes, Katie, the Milky Way in the summertime is the brightest and most beautiful. And you don't specifically see the Milky Way in particular in the winter. You just see that there's a lot of bright stars. Well, part of that reason that Orion is so bright with the belt of 3 stars and all that is because We exist in a little part of the galaxy that's known as the Orion Spur. It's a little offshoot of a main spiral arm in which all the many stars in Orion are located. And those many stars in Orion that are located there are young, hot, bright stars. So that's why the wintertime constellation of Orion, it looks so bright. It looks like it's made of the brightest stars in the sky. In fact, it is. The belt stars are O-type stars. And O-type stars are the hottest, the brightest, and also the most short-lived. When Australopithecus afarensis, Lucy, was walking around Olduvai Gorge 4.1 million years ago, Alnitak wasn't even a star yet. So had Lucy had the smarts to look up and look at Orion's belt, Lucy would have said, that's a belt of 2. And then Alnitak, of course, flashed into existence where it is today, still going. But they're only going to last a few tens of millions of years, maybe 100 million years. And then that's it. They're gone. They're going to blow up as supernovae every time. And D. Smith, to answer your question, asking if my sons are interested in astronomy. No. My oldest son is in law school, and he is very, very heavily into jiu-jitsu. I was heavily into Taekwondo for many years, and then he followed my lead there. And my youngest son followed my lead in the film world, and he's in film school, and not into astronomy, but into film and journalism, which is actually kind of cool, and so I guess they're kind of like crosses, hybrids basically of my interests in a sense, and that's kind of cool, But I don't need them to be exactly like me, but I'm okay that they are sort of like me. I think they're the greatest kids on planet Earth. Of course, I'm a little biased.
You should be proud of them. I'm sure you are.
No, I think I'm not proud of them at all.
Oh, sure you are.
Yeah, I know. I'm very proud.
My brothers and sisters, we were the first generation to go to college. Our father was a carpenter, and he was a country western musician a long time before that, and our mom was a housewife, and not all of us got degrees, but we all went to college.
Yeah.
My twin brother got appointed to the Air Force Academy, where he got a heck of an education.
Yeah.
And,
for free. Or we paid for it.
I'm sorry.
No, we paid for his education, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Worth it.
And one of my sisters, she first went to school and became a teacher, and when she started teaching, she decided she didn't like us, so she went back to law school, and she became very successful. She married another attorney, and they both were partners in their law firms, and sister wound up becoming a federal judge.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, she's retired now.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Come on, Meteors.
Well, we had a couple.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Mark, would you excuse me for a moment, please?
Sure thing.
Alrighty, be right back.
Right.
Oh, I am going to step outside for just a second and see what Sky's doing.
Okay. Go for
I'll
it.
be right back.
Hey, when Daryl comes back, we should all go, "Oh, wow, you missed it. It went across the sky and did a 90-degree turn. We saw a UFO." Actually, I brought my kids out when they were younger to see Meteors. And about the most they ended up doing was falling asleep on the blanket outside, but it was fun, family fun, gathering, that kind of thing. Yeah, but it was they did get to see a couple of meteors, and that made them stay awake for another 5 minutes, and then they'd fall asleep. One thing that we did that was predictable was the iridium flares. We could actually know when the iridium flares were coming out or going to be happening, and I could tell them, okay, look in this part of the sky right now, and I'm going to make this star get very bright and move, and then you'd see this iridium flare, and they're like, oh, Dad, did you see that? He made that thing. He made it blink. And I said, hang on, I'm going to make it go away now. And I'd make it go away. Yeah, they only fall for that once. It was pretty cool. But that's, and when you think about it, actually, that's how oracles, in the ancient times, the oracles actually, when they could predict eclipses and know that things are coming, they could use them to their advantage. And they would. They would use those to their advantage, and it just, I don't know. See, I wouldn't do that, because that's kind of a bad thing. I fooled my kids, but of course I owned up to it. The oracles never would. Mary Grace asked me if I've ever seen something that I would consider a UFO. Not yet, Mary Grace. But I do believe they're there, and that's why I'm working with Douglas Trumbull, a good friend of mine. Doug's a wonderful visual effects master, a legend. He did Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Steven Spielberg. He did Blade Runner, Ridley Scott, and he's done all these phenomenal movies. He did 2001: A Space Odyssey. Right, and that kind of thing with Stanley Kubrick. That was his first major film he worked on. So Doug's also a UFO hunter, and I was also a UFO hunter, and I was doing an NPR show, and it was about the X-Files, and the NPR guy asked me if I knew who Doug Trumbull was, and I said, oh yes, I model my visual effects business that I own after Douglas Trumbull's work. And the guy said, well, I'm going to have you on with Doug Trumbull next time. I was like, what? Why? I was like, whoa, that's making me nervous. The guy's my idol. Well, because he's a UFO hunter. And I was like, what? So I wrote Doug a message, an email when I got home. I didn't even know him at that point. And he got on my website. He looked at my website. He looked at what his needs were at the moment, and he said, "Let's get this guy up here right now. We need his skills." And that's how I ended up working on a whole bunch of commercials with Doug and a movie, and then we became very, very good friends after that. And so Doug's besides a legend, he's a good friend. But we both have never seen a UFO, and I think that we both want to, but we're building a unit, a set of units actually, called the Aerial Anomaly Detection System, formerly known as UFOTOG, UFOTOG. If you look it up, you'll see Doug's Humvee that he had this original system in. And the Aerial Anomaly Detection System is going to be these small platters, probably 22 inches across, that will set out everywhere, any place, hundreds of them hopefully around the world, maybe thousands, and we'll be able to detect movement and strange anomalous activity in the skies. And when we see that, then what we can do is, and what we'll do is beam that information up to a GPS satellite and send it down to our smartphones wherever we are. And then we can log in, check it out, see what it saw, things like that. So we'll get rid of planes. We can remove planes because we can get the same data that you get when you have the flight tracker Flight Radar 24, where you can track airplanes. Welcome back, Daryl.
Thank you.
Um,
I stepped outside. It's still cloudy here. I
Okay.
could barely see the moon through the clouds, and that's about all I could see. So, darn it.
Sure. And now Dee's asking me a question here. What's she saying? Do you have time? Do we have time for you to share some of your scientifically unexplainable? Oh yeah, actually, I can give you one of those. I actually and yes, Mario, Chris O'Brien, I know him very well, good friend. He's got a good UFO data as his project. One of the things that one of the things that I actually experienced, I'm a science guy, and these weird things don't happen to me until they do. And now, what do you do with this? What do you do with it? I really don't know what to do with some of the things that have happened. I don't know how to explain them. I don't know what science bucket they can go in to explain. But I'll give you an example of one of them. I was. This is one that some of you probably already heard. I was doing some work for the Navy, very special projects, and they basically it culminated in me getting a ride on a nuclear submarine. And when I went on the sub, I got seasick because on the surface it rocks and rolls like no tomorrow. Underwater, it feels like all of you feel now inside your houses. It feels like it's not moving. You get a little vibration through your feet. But then what happened was because I was trying to get rid of my seasickness, I sat over by the sonar systems, which is sort of off the main control room, and I was zoning out. And there was a kid next to me on the sonar. He's the eyes and ears of the sub. And I'm almost asleep. And he yells out, con sonar, fast mover, fast mover. And I'm jolted awake, thinking fast mover. Oh my gosh, somebody fired a torpedo at us. I'm going to die out here. And I was just going on a ride. And the executive officer comes around the corner and he says, what do you got? And I didn't hear the bearing, I didn't hear the range. It was a very quick thing that had appeared. And the kid basically said, when asked about the speed, he looked kind of incredulous, and he said, several hundred knots, sir. And the executive officer looked at him and said, several hundred knots, and something like that. And the kid verified several hundred knots. So now there's this uncomfortable moment where they're just sort of looking at each other. The XO knows what he's going to do. The kid has no idea what to do. And the kid says, he holds his hands out like in that what do I do pose. He didn't know what to do. So the executive officer said, okay, log it and dog it. And the kid turned back to the screen and said, sir, yes, sir. And went on. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? So I went up to the XO. I got right up. Mr. Big Shot now. You see, I'm on a submarine. I was invited to go on the sub, so I'm a big shot, you see. I go up to the XO, and I'm thinking, I'm going to find out what's going on here. I say, XO, I know about these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with? He looks at me and he says, Mr. D'Antonio, are you having a good trip so far? Yes, sir, I am. And he goes, let's keep it that way. And he turns and walks away. Yeah.
Huh.
Such a big, important guy I was, right? I mean, I was slapped down like so hard. And I deserved it too. But you know what? I was really amazed at the fact that our submarine force sees things like this quite a lot. So much so that they don't track or classify them. Perhaps they just know they can't do anything about them. It's an amazing thing that's going on, and it's not just our Navy either. Russian Navy sees them. Other navies, I'm sure, see them, but the Russians came out and admitted it. So therefore, other navies have seen them too. Fast-moving objects underwater. So that's one. So it's pretty crazy, you know. Pretty crazy.
It's interesting. You mentioned the Russians. I think you and I talked about this once. I speculated about the Russians were supposedly working on what they called supercavitating torpedoes
Yeah, the
or
squall.
something of the sort.
Yeah, the squall. Squall torpedo can go 200 miles an hour, and I think that's what you're talking about. And it actually produces a steam head through which the torpedo flies, basically.
Huh.
And it's the loudest weapon in the ocean. It's fired as a last-ditch weapon. Usually has a nuclear warhead on it, and it's meant to basically, if I'm gonna die, you're gonna die with me, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yep. D. Smith put in 03254 zones 3 to 2. Did we miss something? I think we did. We definitely missed something.
The scenario you just talked about reminds me of a cool old movie. You ever see one called The Bedford Incident?
Oh, yes.
With Richard Widmark and Sidney Poitier?
Yeah, that was an old movie. I remember that.
Yeah, black and white. They were playing cat and mouse. Widmark was the captain of a destroyer, and they were playing cat and mouse with a Russian sub.
Yeah.
And they sort of triggered a doomsday thing at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if I've actually watched the whole movie through. But
it's an excellent movie.
It is a classic, yeah.
Yeah. Young, what's his name? He played Dano on Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, wow.
Was in it too, and Widmark was leaning on Dano really hard, trying to knock him shipshape, you know, and Dano was under so much pressure he made a terrible mistake, and he fired one when he wasn't supposed to fire one, and brought hellfire down on everybody.
Wow. Well, now
Great
that
movie.
we know, we'll have to see it now. Yeah, see, so this is Cassiopeia disappearing here. This is Perseus. You can see all the many stars here in Perseus. It's a very interesting constellation. And then down here is Capella, bright yellow Capella, and of course the clouds are back. Let's see what we can do here just to close this down just for a minute. Interesting. Wow. Did I just see one right here now? That's a good question. 03653 maybe? Oh, you're welcome, D. The experiences are just strange experiences. I don't know what to tell you, you know. Just like the fact I for the first time in my life, I took Ubers all this past week because I was in LA, and everybody uses Uber to get around. You know, and so each time you call an Uber, you get a different person. Kind of like a taxi cab, but it's their own cars. So it's really a weird, different feeling. But it was nice. I would do it again. You know? For sure. Boy, Daryl, the sky is getting a little clearer. You can actually see some really nice... features there in Perseus.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you don't know
he's
that.
Pretty...
I'm not sharing my screen apparently with you.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at
on YouTube.
Looking at the YouTube screen.
Okay.
You can share it if you want to.
Well, I'm watching the bandwidth here, and
very good. You're right.
I've been in the green the whole time, but you know what? It's almost like I want to push the limits here and see if I can go a little better even. So I'm going to try that. Right, let's see if I can go up higher. Okay, I've gone up higher in my bandwidth here. Let's see what we get. Oh wow, KDQ, you saw these experimental aircraft, yeah? That's 2016. Interesting.
My twin brother saw some stuff he couldn't talk about much.
Yeah.
The one in the Air Force. Have you ever heard of the 6594th
Oh,
test group?
sorry. We just had one right here. Come down through the middle here. You'll see it. Zone 5. Top of zone 5.
Okay, watching.
Yeah. What's this, Daryl? Do you recognize that right there?
I don't see where your pointer is, Mark.
Oh, of course you don't. That's all right. You'll see it in a bit. But I think it's an aircraft, actually, that's moving very slowly out of frame. Heading away or heading in a direction that's making it move slower.
Anyway, my brother was in the 6594th test group. And they did classified things
Yep.
that he wasn't supposed to talk about. But they were the guys who flew great big helicopters, and they snatched spy satellite payloads out of the sky,
Oh, interesting.
among other things.
Yeah.
Uh,
D-Smith 03957, Zone 5. Okay. I see Capella rising.
yeah. I must have missed the meteor.
Apparently. The throughput's
Is that,
actually is doing better.
I'm sorry, D. Smith's timestamp, is that pretty accurate, you think? I'll back up a bit.
Yeah, check it out. We got some clouds now in Perseids.
Well, I didn't see it.
Huh.
Coming back to real time here.
Okay. Hey Ashara, how you doing? Welcome to SkyTour LiveStream.
Be right back again, just a second.
Okay. Astrolife, yeah, I've seen that, and these prop planes would actually, with these big, like large V-shaped collectors, would snatch these satellites out of the air. I remember that. I remember that for sure. Pretty cool.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So we're doing
What was left of my tea was ice cold, so I had to go get something fresh.
Okay. I remember seeing another meteor that was in a farmer's field where I was set up with my telescope. I happened to be watching my sister's house while she was in Maine, and I was up in this orchard, and the cows were just walking around me, and I had the telescope around me too. They're actually pretty sure-footed, and they didn't bother me. So these cows are just walking all around me. I pat them on the butt as they walk by and stuff. And meanwhile, I'm looking at these sky. It's beautiful, and I see this meteor, and again, it's moving slow, trailing smoke behind it, and I watch it. It moves 3/4 away across the sky, and it breaks up into 3 distinct pieces. You could see 3 distinct red-hot pieces, and that was a meteor breaking up in flight. It's like, okay, that's very cool. And then a few minutes later, we heard this loud explosion, and that became a bolide. That's what a bolide is. It's a meteor that makes noise at the end, and that was incredible.
I have never heard a meteor. I always wanted to, but I never have.
Yeah, it was big. It just went.
Sometimes, they say that meteors make sort of a sizzling noise, and that when people see it and hear it, it is almost simultaneous. Which would mean that would have to be some sort of effect, traveling like the speed of light. So it's like, what would you call it, electrostatic or something. I have never been privileged to hear a meteor, though.
Well, it took a few minutes for the sound to get down to the ground. The meteor was long gone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Because sound, of course, doesn't travel at the speed of light.
Yep. 5 miles a second.
Yeah.
Or 5 seconds per mile, excuse me.
And it was incredible. It just, after it was long gone, basically, we hear coming from the place where it broke up in the sky, we heard that with an echo, and that was just the coolest thing. Never heard that before.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Perseids looks beautiful right here, doesn't it, guys? I mean,
it does.
You can see that really nicely. And just for the record, I did up the bandwidth up to 7,000 from 3,500. And now I do not see any problems with the screen. It's not doing that pixelation at all. So I changed that, and that fixed it. Hee-haw.
Cool.
Yeah, that's very good, actually.
Yeah. Perseids looks nice and crisp, too.
Yeah.
You see all the major stars on it.
Yep.
Minor ones, too.
Yep. Make it brighter. So, here we are.
I remember another year for the Perseids shower. It was the year after I saw all the really colorful ones that looked like Roman candles.
Yeah.
The astronomy club met out at a couple's farmhouse way outside town.
Yeah.
And the guy had built the place specifically for astronomical, observation or photography. And
Okay.
there were no other lights out there back then. It's a sea light now, but back then, if the first one I mentioned was in '98, this one was the next year in '99. And we had a meteor party, and everybody was laying out in the yard on like recliners, and stuff, wrapped
Yep.
up in sleeping bags and all that, because it's mid-November by then, and it's getting cold. And oh gosh, ton of fireballs that year, super bright meteors, and it wasn't a storm yet, which happened, I guess, the next year, the big one, but. Ton of meteors and a ton of bright fireballs.
Wow.
And I had been laying there for hours wrapped in a sleeping bag in a recliner, and I was frozen stiff. I had to get up, and I had to roll myself out of the sleeping bag over onto my hands and knees on the ground right next to the recliner. And no more than I had budged out of that recliner, then the best meteor of the night went off right behind my head.
Oh.
And it looked like a flash bulb had gone off everywhere around us, tremendous, just bright as day for a moment. And God, I turned around and, it was gone, of course, and everybody just screamed and oohed and awed, and I managed to miss the brightest one of the night. It was really cool, though. It left a smoke train that hung up there for minutes.
Yeah, same thing I saw with Leonids. There was a beautiful smoke train that ended up becoming very wispy and billowy and ended up, dragging out into the upper atmosphere, and it was green. Really, really cool. But, you gonna be hanging out here for a couple more minutes, Daryl?
Couple of minutes? Sure.
Yeah, I have to go take care of something upstairs. I'll be back shortly, okay?
That's fine.
All right. Thanks. I'll be right back.
I'll try to. Yeah.
I'm sure you can wrangle everybody, because they just like when you wrangle them, whether you do it on SkyTour LiveStream or whether you do it in SkyTour Radio.
I'll try to keep them entertained.
All right. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, D. Smith, that's my kind of luck too. Stories I could tell, but they're neither here nor there. And some of them have nothing to do with astronomy, but my kind of luck too. One of my sisters, the lucky one in the family, she had a scratch-off ticket, lottery ticket. She won $10,000, and she thought it was 100, but her son looked at it and he goes, Ma, look at all those zeros. Best I ever did with a Powerball, I think it was. I won $100 one time, and that was it. And that's my luck. I've seen some cool things in the sky, though. Talking about UFOs, I've seen a bunch of. I've been doing this about 40 years now, and I have seen a lot of UFOs through the years. I'm not saying I saw flying saucers. I saw things that, by definition, I would call unidentified. Probably the closest to anything I might ever consider a flying saucer, though, was I was living up in the high country here in Colorado. Highest town in the United States, called Leadville. It's about 10,200 feet elevation. I had been at a friend's house, and we were watching the first Christopher Reeve Superman movie on HBO that night. And after the movie, I was driving home. I was going up the highway toward the main part of town, and I had a clear view of the mosquito range over to the east of Leadville and the sky. And this bright white light had a smaller green light on either side of it. It looked like, that's what I thought I saw at the time, came kind of arcing down from up in the southern sky down across the northeast and disappeared behind the mountain to the east of Leadville. And, if you just imagine a bright white light with a little green light real tight on either side of it, well, that certainly didn't look like any meteor I've ever seen. Was it a UFO? Was it a flying saucer? I don't know, but that was that. Seeing a bunch of others that were just might call more garden variety UFOs. Big red light in the sky that moved very slowly. Took about a half an hour to move out of the field of view. And others. Saw 6 or 8 of them flying sort of across in a band across from south to north in the sky once. It was at a party, and frankly, I was not quite sober to put it mildly. Somebody else pointed out to me, though. They came up out of the south, and they looked almost like they were weaving around each other as they moved from south to north across the sky. That was really cool. That might be sort of flying saucerish too, but I didn't see any actual flying saucers. And others I'd have to think about. Seen a lot of cool meteors. The peak of the Leonid shower in 2000, I guess, whenever it was, that has to be in my top 3 things I've ever seen. That was just tremendous. When the radiant was real high, early that morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, it looked just like when you were standing on the bridge of the Enterprise in Star Trek, and they're at warp speed and you see the stars streaming by. It looked like that. They were constantly just coming right out of the head of Leo in the radiant point. Constant stream of meteors. It was a beautiful, spectacular thing to see. And again, anywhere you looked in the sky, you saw a meteor at any time. There were just thousands of them. It was really beautiful. Best thing I ever saw, period, was the solar eclipse 2 years ago. August 21st, 2017. I was north of Scottsbluff, Nebraska is where I wound up at. Just a couple of miles off the center line. And totality lasted a little less than 2.5 minutes. But my God, it was so beautiful. It was alive. It was electric. It was the sky turned dark, but it didn't just turn black. I mean, the sky was red and purple and blue, and seeing the eclipse itself was just mind-boggling to me. Pictures cannot do it justice. Videos couldn't do it justice. You had to be there. The whole thing was just so tremendously vibrant. It was amazing to see. It's probably the high point of my observing life. Hey, I saw it. I had to go back and look. Yes, Katie. That has to be the number one thing I ever saw. It was just tremendous. There's another one in 2024. Everybody, if you're interested in seeing solar eclipses, total eclipses, it's in April of 2024. The eclipse is going to travel up out of Mexico and across Texas into Arkansas and then continue to the northeast all the way up to the Canadian Maritimes. And our friend Amanda Curran should have a ringside seat for that, where she lives in Nova Scotia. Uh, I would love to go see that one. Totality is going to be a lot longer than the 2017 eclipse, which again was less than 2.5 minutes where I was at, and it was over all too soon. The eclipse in Texas in 2024 is, I forget. It's going to be leisurely by comparison, though. It's going to last like 5 minutes or 6 minutes or something like that, I think. And yes, the birds, too. The birds get real quiet. The insects all land and, act like it's time to go to bed.
Must be talking about solar eclipse.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Just talking about things to see.
Yeah.
Meteors and other things.
Yep.
UFOs.
Wow. Well, I mean, tonight we saw a few meteors. We got a few more. Oh, look at that. There's a plane. That's a plane going through.
I think I'm still lagging quite a bit.
Yeah, there'll be a plane coming through here shortly.
Sure wish it would clear up here.
I know. You have a telescope to test.
Yes, I know.
I wonder if
They're saying
so
it's supposed
you
to
forget
dry
it.
out the next few days, so I may get it out.
That's good.
There it is.
Okay, so about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, D. Smith, it's true. When you see a partial solar eclipse, you can't tell what's going on unless you look at the shadows that are coming through the trees and all the many little holes in the leaves. It's really quite a nice abstract photograph when you if you're like in a city and you see there's an eclipse, you go where there's trees, and sometimes the shadow falls on the building, and you see all these tiny little eclipses everywhere you look, and then that's a great picture, actually. I saw a lot of artists taking pictures of those things before. I don't want to shut down tonight, but I know I have to because I have a medical procedure tomorrow morning, and I have to be able to get up, and it's 1 o'clock now. And we've gone 3 hours and 44 minutes. We saw a few. Tomorrow's the peak, actually, so we're probably going to have to we're going to probably got to do something tomorrow too, don't you think?
Sure. I'll be here, I'll be at Bill's, or I'll be at both.
Yeah, you'll be everywhere.
Yeah. If the sky's clear, I'll hopefully be outside.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Wow.
We'll see. Luck of the draw.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I want to thank you for coming tonight. We actually had a kind of a fun time checking out the sky. Tomorrow we're going to do it again if it's clear. I don't know if it's going to be clear here, actually. So I had to do it tonight. And unfortunately, tomorrow's going to be what it is. And then I have Monday night and Tuesday night. And then Wednesday I'm actually flying out to Norway, but it's at night. So I'm leaving from John F. Kennedy JFK at 11:30 at night. So it'll be interesting because that's going to be right in the middle of the peak of the Perseids. I'm picking a seat that's on the side of the plane where I'll be able to look out and see Perseids. So that'll be cool.
Nice.
D. Smith, you're funny. I can see we're finally getting some dew back on the lens here. I can tell. because the camera's getting confused, and some of that pixelation is a result of the camera trying to optimize the image because it's seeing a smoothness which is related to the dew on the lens. So it's probably a good idea to shut it down anyway, bring it in, heat it, and get rid of all the moisture, so we'll be ready for tomorrow. And tomorrow I might actually set it up in the dome to protect it a little bit more, because the dome acts like a gigantic dew cap. But we'll see. So folks, thanks for coming, and I will hopefully be back tomorrow with more of a stream for this. And I'll probably make a better dew cap for tomorrow too, so we have a little bit better view. Anyway, I appreciate you being here, Daryl. Thanks for covering when I had to go take care of stuff here, and
Oh, sure.
and to all of you watching, thank you so much for being the wonderful audience and wonderful friends. We enjoy you very much. And you know, I do this for all of you, actually. I really do. And if you have any doubts about that, just look at my history. You know, it's all about popularizing astronomy and getting people to look up, right? And so if you guys have any questions, remember you can contact me at SkyTour Radio at kgraradio.com. You can also find me at mufonanalyst@gmail.com. That's my other email. I have another one for my business, but that doesn't matter. But so that's SkyTour Radio at kgraradio.com, or MUFON Analyst, MUFON Analyst @gmail.com. So thanks again. Thank you very much for your... Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can I say something real quick before we go?
Yes, of course.
Okay, folks, if you're still wanting to stay up a while and watch for meteors, go over to Bill New York Skywalker's page. He's
Skywatcher.
also covering the meteor stream tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Bill New York Skywatcher. You said Skywalker.
Okay.
You said Skywalker.
Oh, I did?
You
I'm
got
sorry.
Star Wars on the mind.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, folks.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. Good night, everybody.
All right. We'll see you later, Daryl. Thank you all for coming. We'll be back tomorrow night, weather permitting. All right. See you,
Take
Daryl.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good luck tomorrow.
Hey, thanks.
Sure.
All right, folks. I will talk to you tomorrow. You can see my lens is clouding up here, so it is time to bring it in. Anyway, you guys have a good night, and I shall talk to you later. See you later.
What?